Morning, Glory America, Bonjour, hi, Canada. I'm Hugh Hewitt, live inside the Beltway on this Veterans Day 2021. There is news I'm keeping my eye on it. The 6.2% inflation ounce after yesterday's show was a nightmare. And, of course, we've got Joe Manchin speaking up and saying no more spending. We got lots of headlines. I'll keep my eye on any breaking news. There is over at the Washington Post right now a fascinating video of 100 years ago today. The first doughboy or devil dog, we're not sure, was laid to rest in the tomb of the unknown soldier. That soldier was unknown, a victim of World War I's combat. And General Pershing led the ceremonies, and he or she was laid to rest in the tomb of the unknown soldier 100 years ago today. Go and look at that. In the meantime, join me in celebrating the Semper Fi Fund and America's Fund, as I have done each year for 17 years on the Hugh Hewitt Show on Veterans Day. Salute the Semper Fi Fund and the America's Fund. Together, you can reach them at thefund.org. They have been around since 2003 when a group of Marine Corps wives gathered around a table at Camp Pendleton and said, we have to do something for the wounded soldiers coming back from the invasion of Iraq. And since then, they have operated and raised over $256 million with an overhead of less than 7% over their nearly two-decade life now. It's really remarkable. They are one of three veteran nonprofits that receive the A+ mark from the Charity Watch. They get 4 stars from the Charity Navigator for 10 consecutive years. It's an achievement that only 3%, 3% of charities overall achieve. And they have the Platinum Seal of Transparency from GuideStar. This is double down for veterans match time as well. The Bob and Renee Parsons Foundation have agreed to match every donation to the Semper Fi and America's Fund between now and Christmas, dollar for dollar, up to $10 million. They have 3 focus areas: the service member family support, transition, and wellness. And so I interviewed a bunch of veterans. I've been doing it over the last couple of weeks, so I have tape of some of them. And I want you just to listen today to the stories of recovery and realize that you can help. And some of you help every year. For 17 years, you've made a $10, $100, whatever contribution. Last year, someone sent us $100,000, and we're very, very grateful for everything that you send. We can't do enough for the men and women who have sacrificed so much during the 2 long wars in which we have been involved since 9/11. My first interview is with Wendy Lathine and Sue Baker, 2 of the driving engines behind America's Fund and the Semper Fi Fund. Starting off my annual Veterans Day appeal for you to celebrate and support the Semper Fi Fund and America's Fund via www.thefund.org. I'm joined by Wendy Lathine, who's the Vice President of the Semper Fi Fund, the Fund of Philanthropy. Sue Baker is helping with her as the West Coast Management, Case Management. Good morning, Wendy and Sue. Happy Veterans Day to you. Where do we find you today? Wendy, are you still down south?
Good morning, Hugh. No, I am in Bend, Oregon.
Oh, my.
A little cold.
Oh, my. How about you, Sue?
Yeah, I am in Southern California.
Well, welcome to you both. I've given the stats, the phone number, all the information. What I really want people to know is, how do you keep doing this year in and year out? And Wendy, I think you were there when the Semper Fi Fund got started. It's now thefund.org. When did that happen?
In 2003, we started giving out welcome bags and meeting the medevacs as they first came into the hospitals there at Camp Pendleton. And then soon it became so apparent that it was going to be much more than welcome bags that were needed. And the Semper Fi and America's Fund was born. And in 2004, we were in full operations, Hugh.
18 years later, $256 million in grants later, you're still going strong, and will be going strong as thefund.org. Sue, when did you link up with the effort at Semper Fi Fund, America's Fund, and thefund.org?
Yes, thank you. I was a volunteer for a little over a year as I got started with the fund, and then came on as a case manager in 2013. So
how and why did you volunteer, Sue?
Yes, so my husband is retired, and so I had been a spouse and gone through deployments on my own with 3 kids at home. So I was very good friends with some of these wives, and they brought me in.
Well,
be real then.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Are you one of the talent spotters, Wendy? Are you always on the lookout there for a good Semper Fi Fund, America's Fund caseworker?
We are. We have that's what makes us the magic is that we have such an amazing team of volunteers and staff.
It is always the case, Wendy Lithine, that I talk to the Wounded Warriors in the course of today's program, and they will talk about their caseworker before they talk about the fund. And usually it's the same caseworker no matter how long the recovery is. Is that just an objective on the wall at the top? That's to Wendy.
It is. It is. We try to keep with the same case manager as much as possible, and you'll hear that the fund is so much more than a charity. We are a family. We're the fund family. We wrap our arms around our military heroes, and we're there with them on their journey, not just once, but for a lifetime if needed.
Now, Sue, I got to ask you, this is a particularly difficult year for veterans of Afghanistan with events in Afghanistan. Has that shown up in your casework?
Yes, it sure has. We have been at the bedsides of those who have come home from Afghanistan at Walter Reed, and we are continuing that assistance now that they've transitioned back over here to the West Coast. And we've been able to assist the families and the needs that they have, and now on to helping with the service members in their recovery.
I'm glad to hear that. Now, Wendy, one of the things I tell people is that you're in for the long haul. The Vietnam veteran came back to nothing. The Iraq War veteran came back to some, but it went away. The Semper Fi Fund and then America's Fund and now the Fund.org set up for the long haul. Do you think those institutional propellants are still in place?
Oh, we are absolutely in for the long haul. Some of these service members, when they were first injured or are first injured, are 20 years old, Hugh. They are going to need our help. They are going to need the American public's help for years to come. We don't even know all the things that they're going to face years ahead. But we made the pledge to be there. We will.
Wendy, in terms of adapting, you've changed from the Semper Fi Fund to the Semper Fi Fund and America's Fund to make sure you took care of all service members who are wounded. And now it's just the Fund.org. How difficult were those transitions? How is the path now?
They really were not that difficult. We started out as Semper Fi Fund because we were spouses of Marines there at Camp Pendleton when we first started out. But when we wanted to help all the other service branches, and thanks to a wonderful donor, we were able to start that. And again, the American public was right there beside us. So, it was an easy transition. And because it is a very long name, Semper Fi and America's Fund, it's so much, our service members, our whole team, we just found that the fund is the best way, the easiest way to call us.
It is, and it's a combined federal campaign charity. I want everyone to realize that. There's also a matching grant right now from the Bob and Renee Parsons Foundation. $10 million is available to the Semper Fi Fund if they raise it. America's Fund if they raise it. The Fund.org if you contribute to it. So please go there. And I will close. I'll come back and talk with you at the end of the show, ladies. But I got to say, the fact that you have a 7% overhead is just the most remarkable thing. A+ from Charity Watch, 4 stars from Charity Navigator, the Platinum Seal of Transparency from GuideStar. Last question, Wendy, until we come back at the end. You have to work hard to get those ratings. You really have to pay attention to efficiency, and 7% is really amazing.
We do. All those ratings are so very important to us because they are very important to our donors. We are good stewards of the funding that our donors give to us. And our focus is on our service members, so it is easy, to toe the line, to be the best out there. We want just a few veteran charities to get those ratings.
A handful. And Semper Fi Fund, I think, has had it longer than anybody, and I don't know that anyone gets all three other than the Fund.org. Listen to our testimonies coming up from Wounded Warriors, and we will be back with Wendy and Sue at the end of the show. Stay tuned, America. And I'll tell you right now, the headline over at the Wall Street Journal is that Elon Musk sold $5 billion worth of stock. Well, I hope he gives 10% to the Fund.org, but I hope you look away from a headline that and you think about the 10,000 plus Wounded Warriors we have in the United States who have sacrificed a part of their lives and will feel pain for their lives as a result of this. Call the Semper Fi Fund at 760-725-3680. Just leave a message. The office is closed on the West Coast now, but they'll be back in later today. 760-725-3680. That's 760-725-3680. And then come right back to the Veterans Day edition 2021 of the Hugh Hewitt Show. I'm Hugh Hewitt, Inside the Beltway Live.
This is Carol Platt-Liebau for townhall.com. 30 years have passed since Justice Clarence Thomas was confirmed to the U.S. Supreme Court. His tenure there has been consequential indeed. He's the court's foremost proponent of natural law, an understanding that our individual rights are transcendent and come from God. This understanding undergirds his approach to the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, powerfully informing the justice's unyielding commitment to limited government and equal justice before the law. Over the last 5 years, Justice Thomas has authored more opinions than any of his colleagues on the Supreme Court. His influence only continues to grow. And he's beloved by the scores of people who know him. He knows the names of the children of the marshals who guard the courthouse. He's mentored generations of clerks, treating them like family, and his distinctive hearty laugh rings out within his judicial chambers. May God bless this great, good, and brilliant man, and may he serve on the court many years longer.
Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
Phrase. Feminism always had a very strong anti-male component. Feminism was never only about women's equality. If it was about women's equality, it would have disbanded decades ago. Who denies that men and women are equal? I have not met that human being. I'm sure one exists. There are people who believe Elvis Presley is still living. But they don't exist in any numbers. It is a non-issue. There is a hostility to men that is in the DNA of feminism.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on the Larry Elder Show.
Now, what made you begin to rap about politics like this, and conservative politics?
Yeah, just being inspired by the message, you know what I mean? There was a whole lot of other influencers and people who have went through a lot of things by speaking the truth, you know what I mean? And it was almost something I just, absolutely couldn't ignore. And as far as African Americans, I mean, we've been a target for a long time, you know what I mean? And they use us for votes and everything else. And as soon as they say racism, we jump right on it. You know what I mean? I feel like as an African American, it's really important to, teach your fellow Americans and then your African Americans the truth. That's how you guide them. That's how you lead them. You know what I mean? By actually giving them real knowledge about what's really going on.
Loza, are you registered Republican?
Yeah.
Did you vote for me?
Yeah.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
Streaming on Salem Now.
This is a story of how 1 million children were placed with local foster families through an unlikely alliance between the Chinese government and a British footballer. Parents from all walks of life share their stories of overcoming the one-child policy by taking in orphans. With unprecedented access across the country, this is a unique insight into the lives of the 90s orphans now driving the 21st century's fastest growing economy. This story needs to be told across the world. At a time where there's so much negativity and cynicism, here's proof that a single leap of faith can change the world.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Trending now on the Mike Gallagher Show.
Flat.
And if you're wondering why people like Michael seem to have this weird agenda about the Kyle Rittenhouse case, there's a political component to this in a big way. Grabian put together a montage that perhaps allows you to understand why Michael in Sacramento feels the way he does. What drives the passion of people who want Kyle Rittenhouse to spend the rest of his life in jail. Listen to this beast monologue.
Kenosha shooter, Kyle Rittenhouse, he murdered 2 people.
On their face.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
Welcome back, America Veterans Day 2021. I'm Hugh Hewitt, live inside the Beltway, doing my annual show for the fund, which you can call this morning at 760-725-3680 or make a contribution online at thefund.org. My first guest is First Lieutenant Tim Fallon. I'm joined now by Master Sergeant Cedric King, U.S. Army retired. Good morning, Master Sergeant. Happy Veterans Day. How are you?
Thanks so much, Hugh. How's it going?
It's good. Where are you today?
I'm in Atlanta, at home in Atlanta.
Well, I hope you're listening every morning on AM 970, The Answer. When were you wounded, Sergeant, and how did the fund help you?
I was wounded in July 2012, and the fund helped me, but it also helped my family, too. My mom and my wife were flown up to Bethesda Naval Hospital, and they actually made sure that they had housing while they were trying to figure out how our new life was going to be.
And have they stayed with you through the entire course? I think you were wounded. What year were you wounded in, Sergeant?
I was wounded in Afghanistan. So over the last few years, they were there from the moment that I came out of the coma till right up to this year. They've been there throughout the whole thing. I'm an aspiring athlete. They made sure that that any athletic venture that I wanted to do, they were supportive. They sent us stuff during the pandemic. They made sure I had medical stuff for the pandemic because it's so difficult to go to the hospital. They made sure that I had anything that I needed during the pandemic. They actually even said this. They actually sent us soup and cookies because they knew it was hard to get to the grocery stores. They just sent that to our family as just a little token of their appreciation for our service.
Oh, Master Sergeant King, that is cool. What kind of athletic competition are you into now? What gets your juices flowing?
So I run marathons, and I do Ironman competitions. And they made sure that I had the cycle. So as an amputee, you can't run. So they made sure, you can run. But they made sure that when I want to do marathons, I do run, but I also do hand cycle. And they made sure that they supported me getting the races. They also made sure that I had, a hand cycle to race in. They do, caregiver support, housing assistance, transportation assistance, you name it. They are a one-stop shop for veterans who have been injured. It's not just Marines. It's also Air Force, Army, Coast Guard, you name it. It's soldiers, Army, everybody.
Master Sergeant King, they did not run the Marine Corps Marathon in D.C. this year, where I am, because of COVID. But I wonder, have you ever run that one?
I did. I've done that one several times. I'd actually planned to do it this year, but since they canceled it, it turned to virtual. So instead, I'm going to go down to Panama City tomorrow, and Saturday I'll be doing the full Ironman competition.
Oh, wow. Wow. What's the estimated time? 8 hours? 9? What's the hours for the triathlon in Panama City? What's your goal?
Well, yeah, so this is a full Ironman. So this is 140.6 miles. My goal is to finish it before midnight. I'm one of the slower athletes on the Ironman. My swim, I'm hoping to be right under 2 hours, just under 2 hours, and my bike, I'm hoping to do it around 8 hours, and the marathon, probably about 2 hours, 2:15 on the hand cycle.
Well, we are we now have someone to root for. You can follow these triathlons online. So Cedric King is going to be the guy we follow on that. I hope that the fund has come through with the special equipment. Triathlons are not, I know some triathloners in the family. That's kind of for crazy people, Master Sergeant, but good for you.
Thank you so much.
Now, last thing I got to ask you, you're from Georgia. Now, the Buckeyes are going to
put... I'm from North Carolina.
So are you a Georgia fan?
I live in Georgia, though.
Are you a Georgia fan?
I'm a die easy. I'm a die easy Georgia fan.
All right, well, that's good because the Buckeyes are going to make that possible for you. Sergeant, thank you so much. Happy Veterans Day to you. And remember, thefund.org, America, thefund.org. Or you can actually go to call them at 760-725-3680. Lieutenant Fallon will start the next segment. It's Veterans Day. Remember the Semper Fi Fund and America's Fund at thefund.org. Come right back to this, The Hugh Hewitt Show.
Portions of The Hugh Hewitt Show are brought to you in part by Birch Gold Group.
Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
So why?
Testimony, Your Honor.
Pardon me?
That was before the
Don't
testimony.
get brazen with me. You knew very well. You know very well that an attorney can't go into these types of areas when the judge has already ruled without asking outside the presence of the jury to do so. So don't give me that. That's number one.
I have to tell you, I haven't sat in front of a lot of judges in real time. I did it once for a speeding ticket in my life. I have watched many trials on TV, real ones. I don't think I've ever seen a judge as pissed as that. He actually looked, if you weren't watching on the video, he looked infuriated. He was jumping up in his seat and he said, "Don't get brazen with me," to the deputy district attorney. Look, predictions, it's a mug's game. But right now, based upon how the judge is responding to the way that this evil bunch of hyenas are trying to make... the fact of the matter of this, Rittenhouse killed 2 people. Both of them were criminals. One of them had just been released from jail for doing what? Raping young boys. If it were up to me, that would be a death penalty automatic in America. Rape a child, death. End of story. That's the reason nations create capital punishment. He got out, which is just so understanding and empathetic of us. He threatened people all day, and then he used force and threatened Kyle Rittenhouse.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at Rumble.
Streaming on Salem Now.
¿Cuánto queda?
No queda nada. Y lo siento mucho.
And that's the only time you can come to Christ. When the Spirit of God calls you to the cross. Don't you hesitate.
Have you ever thought of going to seminary?
Madre, Padre, ¿quién está listo para ser transformado por el poder de su palabra?
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Schools are lining up to push the transgender agenda on kids and cut parents out of the equation.
Go to salemnow.com.
Trending now on The Charlie Kirk Show.
I'm in charge. I'm the mob boss. Play cut 2.
Are you at all thinking about some relief on any of your mandates?
Listen, there's mandate fatigue everywhere, including with yours truly, so let there be no doubt about that. At the moment, no.
This guy is a scumbag. He is awful. Contrast that with Governor DeSantis, America's greatest governor, most courageous, and just announced his reelection campaign to become governor of Florida again. A well-deserved campaign of a man who has been overly courageous with now the lowest COVID rates in the country. Can you get if it's COVID rate, death rates, or virus rates? It's whatever it is. It's the lowest in the country.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
And that is, can you name an intelligent conservative? That's that's a riddle for them.
Well, they would scratch their head. Because then they're torn. If they say yes, then they've undercut their entire argument about the conservative movement. If they say no, then they know that intellectually, here it goes back to bite them. Intellectually, they can't say no because they do know that there are conservatives out there that they may disagree with, and they try to downplay, but are intelligent. Remember, there was an old saying. I don't know if you remember the show The West Wing.
Yeah.
There was a discussion, a very interesting show. It was very liberal, but there was times of conservative balance. At least they would attempt it. And there was a conversation one time between I think one of the characters, a Rob Lowe character, and then the Ansley Hayes character in the thing. So they were talking about, how could you be against this? The intellectual, you graduated from, good schools. How could this happen? And the Ansley Hayes character make this comment. She said, "You seem to."
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
Welcome back, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt, live inside the Beltway. I hope you've downloaded the Salem News Channel app so you can see our visuals for this Veterans Day 2021. I'm going over to the other side of the river today for a veterans memorial at the Rocky Versace Memorial. He was an American POW, captured in the South, executed by the Viet Cong, and it's also the Vietnam Veterans Memorial for Alexandria, Virginia. And I hope you get to a Veterans Day ceremony somewhere near you. There are lots of them all over the United States, but whatever you do, take a moment this Veterans Day to support our wounded warriors by contributing to thefund.org or by calling 760-725-3680. And that will connect you to the Semper Fi Fund, or leave a message if there's nobody there. It's early in the morning on the West Coast where their main office is, close by Camp Pendleton where it all began. Let me do a market update based on yesterday as well, brought to you by Birch Gold before we go back to our conversations with wounded warriors. The Dow was off 240, the NASDAQ down 263, and the S&P off 38 yesterday as markets took a bashing. But gold is back up. Again, you had 6.2%, the largest inflation year over year for a month in 30 years as it roared back, and gold took notice and soared up almost 1% to 1863. So if you're going to get some money into gold, do it with Birch Gold via hughgold.com. hughgold.com, or text my name, Hugh, H-U-G-H, to 474747. Markets will go up for a while with inflation, but gold will be your rock at inflationary times, and they are here. Joe Manchin saying yesterday, we got to rethink this spending, all but putting the kiss of death on the Build Back Better plan, at least as it is currently structured. Good news for America. The best news for America is that we have men and women in uniform fighting for it, and we have men and women who have been wounded, and the Semper Fi and America's Fund stand by them. Here is First Lieutenant Tim Fallon. Joined now by Lieutenant Tim Fallon, United States Marine Corps. Good morning, Lieutenant, and happy Veterans Day to you. How are you?
Good day.
Where do we find you this morning?
I'm up back in New Jersey, Central New Jersey.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that. That probably makes you a Jets fan, but I'll just go with the flow.
Oh, God, no.
Oh, God, no.
Thank you.
You're not a Rutgers fan, are you? We added them to the Big Ten. I'm from Ohio because everybody needs a homecoming game. I hope you're not rooting for Rutgers.
I went to St. Joe's down in Philly. They didn't have a football team, so I never had to deal with that misery.
Yeah, well, very good. Now, Lieutenant, when were you wounded, and how did the Semper Fi Fund help you?
I was back in 2010. I was wounded in Afghanistan, and I was blinded in both eyes by an IED blast. And they were just there from the very beginning. One of my earliest memories of being wounded in the hospital, because I woke up from a coma in the hospital, a medically induced coma, was one of the Semper Fi Fund folks there, and they were helping my parents, helping my then fiance through everything. And it was a difficult road, and but they were there the whole time, to include to today.
Now, Lieutenant, what did they do for you? Every year I do a Veterans Day show for Semper Fi Fund, now just thefund.org. And what connects most with the audience is finding out what exactly Semper Fi Fund did for people like you who've been wounded fighting the war to protect us.
You know, what they do is, well, broadly speaking, they're very specific for each person, right? They don't have cookie-cutter ideas or programs to help out the entire population of wounded folks, right? They take each case very seriously and individually. And over the years, they've been able to help me very much with my blindness and getting me the equipment that I need, right, to operate, say, in an office environment, which is what I do today, even though I'm completely blind, right? Getting me the training up to that early on. They were able to also just help out my family with a lot of costs, and especially way back in the day, getting to and from the hospital and getting a hotel room, so on and so forth. But I guess that was maybe not the most specific answer, but they were able to do everything.
You mentioned your family. You said earlier when you were wounded and blinded in Afghanistan, you had a fiance. I assume she's now your wife. Do you have kids?
Yeah, I got 3 kids.
And so they grow up with a dad who's wounded. And how do they help with the kids?
They've been real good with that. They have a lot of programs to help the kids get together and meet other veterans, and just and also through COVID, they have a lot of options to help the kids do stuff virtually and keep them interested in learning and so on. So, again, just a really wide and deep are their programs.
Well, Lieutenant, let me close by asking you, what's life look like now? Are you in a new job? Are you in a new career path? How is the decade since your wounding gone?
Things are going well. Can't complain. I'm starting a new career, and it's going well. And a lot of it really is thanks to Semper Fi Fund. They really have been there, a support, a crutch to help me get through some pretty tough times. And things are going very well. Can't complain.
Thank you, Lieutenant Fallon, for telling us that, and thanks everyone for supporting thefund.org. That's where you'll find the Semper Fi Fund and America's Fund. Have a great Veterans Day, Lieutenant. I will tell you right now, none of these guys ever complain, and women. I never hear a single complaint from any of them. Here is Master Sergeant Jay Collins. Master Sergeant Jay Collins. Joined now by Master Sergeant Jared J. Collins, a Green Beret, United States Army, retired. Good morning, Master Sergeant Collins. Good to have you on the Hugh Hewitt Show on this Veterans Day. Happy Veterans Day. Thanks for your service. Where do I find you this morning?
Well, we are here at home in beautiful Tampa, Florida, and thank you for letting me have the opportunity to be on your show.
Tampa, Florida. You're not a Brady fan, are you, Sergeant?
Well, man, how can you not be a Brady fan, right? It's Tampa Bay. Look at the last year. My goodness.
You could be from Cleveland and root for the Browns, but we'll leave that aside. There's no college football in Florida. Why did you settle there?
Well, I'll tell you what. I'm a one-legged dude, right? So the ice and cold's not really your friend when you're trying to walk around on a prosthetic. But in reality, man, my kids love the beach. Florida has our heart, and this is our home, man. We love it here.
It's great to talk to you, Jay. Tell us about having that one leg. When were you injured, and how's the recovery going?
So, I was originally injured in 2007 in Afghanistan. Went through kind of a long process of limb salvage, trying to figure out what was going on with my leg, how it was going to work. We amputated in January of 2014. And after that point, once we figured this out, the recovery has gone great. We've had amazing organizations like the fund, Semper Fi, America's Fund, there for us, helping raise us up when my family wasn't sure how this was going to turn out. I requalified as a Green Beret 12 months after losing my leg and served 5.5 more years.
Wow.
It's been an absolute blessing.
I didn't know that was possible. I know one Green Beret well, Michael Waltz, who's a member of Congress. My son works for him, and he's a member of the Nixon seminar. But I didn't know you could do that, requalify to be a snake eater and get out there. The fund.org, America, is both Semper Fi Fund and America's Fund. We have an Army veteran here. So how did the fund help you, Sergeant?
Well, I'll tell you, they were there in the hospital, right out the gate. We met Karen Hetherington. She's our case manager, man. What an absolute blessing, right? From small things when we were in the hospital, creature comforts, helping us understand the dynamics of the hospital. And they followed us through all the way back to our house. We lived in a 2-story home in North Carolina, home of the Green Berets. And, they helped us make our home adaptable. As an amputee, I found myself, tumbling down the steps repeatedly because they were these old wooden steps. They were very slick. Our bathroom was marble. So with a prosthetic, it was kind of like being on an ice skating rink. They helped us with all of that. When I retired, I decided I wanted to do something pretty audacious. So I ran and biked across the country, feeding people barbecue, kind of like Johnny Appleseed, but with brisket. And in all, we fed about 100,000 people meals with a nonprofit I work for. And America's Fund helped us with adaptive equipment, helped manage the flow of that thing for us. It was just an absolute blessing. And then, after a few years, we were blessed to have the Sinise Foundation and America's Fund collaborate to help us build an adaptive house right here in Tampa, our forever home.
Well, that is actually terrific. I didn't know about the barbecue. When did you get your barbecue, Jones, Master Sergeant Collins?
Well, I'll tell you what. When I was retiring from Fort Bragg, I was in charge of the Special Forces Medical Schoolhouse, right? It kind of came full circle. And I was at a speaking event, and we had a volunteer from this organization come telling me about it, right? So they came in, said about 1,000 people working for me, and then they came back a few months later and said 4,000 or 5,000 more. And at that point, I told them I was dropping my packet. And, they said, hey, look, how would you like to do something different after you retire? We talked about it, and I came on board to help them build their first responder, military, and veteran programming, and have since been promoted to the chief programs officer for this nonprofit. And truthfully, it's because of people like America's Fund and how they helped raise my family up and give back to us and, make sure that we had the opportunity to requalify and have these moments. Couldn't be there without them.
What is your nonprofit name, Sergeant?
I work for Operation Barbecue Relief. It's a 501c3 based out of Kansas City. We provide comfort food to those in need.
If it's based out of Kansas City and you're a Green Beret from North Carolina, isn't there a little dispute between those two states as to who has the best barbecue?
Oh, there's a lot of dispute, but here's the beauty of it, right? I've got people from coast to coast working for us. We've got world champions across the country, and it's such a blessing. It really is. And everyone thinks their barbecue is best. And
Operation Brisket Rescue. Did I get that right?
Operation Barbecue Relief. Yeah.
Barbecue Relief. I didn't get it right. That was kind of you. Operation Barbecue Relief. Let me close, Sergeant, by asking you, in terms of the fund.org, I don't think they're ever going to go away because I think we're going to be needing them for a generation or two. What's your prospect on that?
Oh, absolutely. Look, I can tell you unequivocally that their approach to things in taking care of the service member, in this case myself, my family, my wife did 20 years and retired when I was at Walter Reed. We have 2 beautiful little boys, and, they've been there. Our case manager, Karen, knows our boys, tracks their progress. Their approach is so humane and so focused on each individual soldier. There's no way that they'll go away because it's obvious to everyone involved with them how much they care. And the truth is our world's not getting safer. There's always going to be people put in harm's way. And thank God for people like the fund, right, who are there when something goes wrong.
Master Sergeant Collins, thank you for your service. Have a great Veterans Day. Thanks for helping us tell people about thefund.org. They're not going to go away, and I'm not going to stop doing this. I think that they're going to be around forever because we're going to need them because there are people like Master Sergeant Collins. On a Veterans Day, remember the people that we are celebrating, especially those who've been wounded and sacrificed so much. That's a long road back, you heard the sergeant say, the Master Sergeant say, and we have no problems. That's what the fetching Mrs. Hewitt and I say. When I talk to people who've been wounded, have lost 1, 2, 3 limbs, or are blind, or are in some other way injured, traumatic brain injury, PTS, whatever it is that they're suffering with, I know the Semper Fi Fund helps them, And I know you helped the Semper Fi Fund. You can call at 760-725-3680. That's 760-725-3680, or go to thefund.org. Time for ReliefFactor.com on this Veterans Day. If you're going to a Veterans Day ceremony like I am, stand around and stand erect and be ready to honor the people who have fallen or wounded. Make sure you take your Relief Factor before you go. I'm doing mine right now. My Icarian Curcumin, Resveratrol Omega, and down, I got a little bit of coffee here. Are very easy to swallow. And I take them every morning, which is when you should take it. Look at that bag. You cannot miss that. North Carolina blue and lime green. You cannot miss it. I leave it in the studio. Many of you put it into the car with you so you can get it when you commute. Some of you add in the kitchen or the bathroom so that as you make your morning rounds, you can say, oh, I got to take my Relief Factor, and then your day is better. $19.95 for a 3-week starter pack. Minor aches and pains. We are not doing major recoveries from many surgeries like the Master Sergeant or the First Lieutenant or any of my other guests on my thefund.org day. But I do tell you, ReliefFactor.com will work for the aging athlete or just the person who's getting older, and that would be you. It especially helps commuters who are stuck out there. Get out there and get your Relief Factor. Go over to thefund.org. Call the fund at 760-725-3680 and come right back to this Veterans Day edition of the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Schools are lining up to push the transgender agenda on kids and cut parents out of the equation.
Go to salemnow.com.
Trending now on the Charlie Kirk Show.
I'm in charge. I'm the mob boss. Play cut 2.
Are you at all thinking about some relief on any of your mandates?
Listen, there's mandate fatigue everywhere, including with yours truly, so let there be no doubt about that. At the moment, no.
This guy is a scumbag. He is awful. Contrast that with Governor DeSantis, America's greatest governor, most courageous, and just announced his re-election campaign to become governor of Florida again. A well-deserved campaign of a man who has been overly courageous with now the lowest COVID rates in the country. Can you get if it's COVID rate, death rates, or virus rates? It's whatever it is. It's the lowest in the country.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
And that is, can you name an intelligent conservative? That's a riddle for them.
Well, they would scratch their head. Because then they're torn. If they say yes, then they've undercut their entire argument about the conservative movement. If they say no, then they know that intellectually, here it goes back to bite them. Intellectually, they can't say no because they do know that there are conservatives out there that they may disagree with, and they try to downplay, but are intelligent. Remember, there was an old saying. I don't know if you remember the show The West Wing.
Yeah.
There was a discussion, a very interesting show. It was very liberal, but there was times of conservative balance. At least they would at least attempt it. And there was a conversation one time between I think one of the characters, a Rob Lowe character, and then the Ansley Hayes character in the thing. And so they were talking about, how could you be against this? The intellectual, you graduated from, good schools. How could this happen? And the Ansley Hayes character make this comment. She said, "You seem to forget it was basically the Harvard Club of the Harvard Washington Club that got us into Vietnam." And just making those kind of comments that bring it up, the fact that just because of establishment elitism, you believe your thoughts are right, doesn't mean that there's not another side. And that's the thing that the liberals can't assess to. I saw it firsthand with Jerry Nadler, with Eric Swalwell, with Steve Cohen, Mr. Chicken Bucket himself, which I talk about in the book, and Jamie Raskin and these others who believe themselves intellectually superior. And because they believe their ideas are what is right, when in actuality, they're disconnected from mainstream.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
Welcome back, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt, live inside the Beltway on Veterans Day 2021. For 17 years, I've done a show on Veterans Day dedicated to raising awareness of Semper Fi Fund and America's Fund, asking you to donate, whether it's $10, $100, $1,000. Last year, we had a great foundation send in $100,000, and I just deeply appreciate the $10, the $100,000. They have been around since 2003, and they've raised $256 million. They've spent it all on veterans. They have 7% overhead. They have the highest ratings in the charity world. They have former commandants of the Marine Corps, former generals, 4 stars on their board, and spouses, and boy, do they take care of the money. Completely transparent, the highest ratings in the charity world possible, because they do help people like Sergeant First Class Jeffrey Dawson. I am joined now by Sergeant First Class Jeffrey Dawson, United States Army. Good morning, Sergeant Dawson. Where do we find you today?
Good morning. I'm at North Carolina right now.
And was that where you were based when you were wounded originally?
Yes.
What was it?
Currently stationed here. I'm still stationed here.
Oh, you're active duty. Thank you for telling me that.
Yeah. I'm in the middle of the med board process. I'm working on getting out, yes.
Well, tell us about when you were wounded, the nature of your injuries, and how the fund helped you.
Yeah, so in 2019, I was on a mission in Afghanistan, and we took contact from a barricaded shooter, and I was with a small team that was working on getting into the compound, and a member of our element came up behind me, and I guess I spooked him or whatever, and I was shot in the process of the engagement. So, so I was initially paralyzed from the chest down. I mean, I spent about 8 months in a wheelchair, but about a week afterwards, I started moving my toe, my left big toe on my left foot, and really just never looked back after that. And so that was July 2019. I got shot. I went down to Tampa VA to get my physical therapy at the spinal cord injury unit down there, and I met a lot of awesome people, and I had some really great therapists, and they got me up walking. I walked a 5K in February of 20.
Wow.
A 10K in March of 20. Actually, the Skyway 10K in March of 20, and then to complete my physical goals for being down in Florida, I completed a triathlon sprint.
Well, congratulations, Sergeant. From being paralyzed from the waist down to that is amazing. How did the fund help you through that?
So initially, they got in touch with me at the James A. Haley VA, and they said, hey, let us know if you need anything. And then, there was a couple things that came down, issues with, I wasn't getting any compensations because of the fact that I was getting better so quickly. So I was essentially really denied for everything that I put in for. So financially, we were kind of in a bind. So I reached out to the America's Fund, Semper Fi Fund, and I was working with Michelle. She is awesome. And, they just, anything that we needed, they were just right there, willing to help, and then when COVID came down and we were all kind of stuck in our houses, randomly we would just get these Omaha steak boxes, and they would just be like, oh, hey, hope you're doing great. Hope you're surviving. And it was really nice to be able to get those, those packages in the mail, random text from Michelle, just checking up on me and seeing how I was doing. It was absolutely incredible.
Sergeant, I've been doing this show for 17 years, and I have people who were wounded in that first year of the war in 03 in Iraq or 01 in Afghanistan, and the Semper Fi Fund and America's Fund are still with them. Do you have confidence they'll always be there for you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Even once I transitioned back up to Bragg, Michelle got a hold of me. She got my new address, and, it just, the support continued, all the way, followed me right up back up to Fort Bragg. So, we're still, we'll get a shirt every once in a while from them. We'll just let us know that they're thinking about us. It's pretty cool.
That is very cool. And Sergeant First Class Dawson, thank you. I mean, the story of your recovery is very inspiring, and I know you had to work at it. I know your wife had to work at it, and I'm glad the fund can help you in that. Thank you for your service. Have a great Veterans Day.
You too. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. The address for the fund, if you want the snail mail address, is Semper Fi Fund or America's Fund at 825 College Boulevard, Suite 102, PMB, Peter Mary Baker, 609, Oceanside, California, 92057. That is 825 College Boulevard, Suite 102, PMB 609, Peter Mary Baker, 609, Oceanside, California, 92057. They haven't moved in 17 years. You can also call 760-725-3680. The easiest thing to do is go to the fund. I'll come back. I'll bring you up to speed on all the news of the morning. 6.2% inflation has led Joe Biden to say he is not reconsidering. Went to Baltimore and said we need more spending. Joe Manchin, however, said not so fast. Veterans Day 2021 rolls along. I'm Hugh Hewitt. Stay with us.
Streaming on Salem Now.
The Democratic Party somehow has convinced black people that they're the good guys. Never mind the skanky history of the Democratic Party. That was a party of slavery.
He said, listen, I gotta give these niggas enough. Not too much, but enough that I'll have them voting Democrat for the next 200 years.
The race grievance industry would have you believe that blacks get up and think about nothing else except race.
If I tell you this is racist, yeah, I will get you emotional.
There is a whole big cottage industry for racism. If racism went away, a lot of people would be unemployed.
The mob during the Minneapolis riots following the death of George Floyd. A bunch of white thugs, frankly, burning down the city's traditional black and Asian business district.
They're racist, 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 racist. Everything's racist.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
How 1 million children were placed with local foster families. Parents from all walks of life share their stories of overcoming the one-child policy by taking in orphans.
Go to salemnow.com.
Trending now on the Larry Elder Show.
Well, first I would ask, what city is Ron living in? Because when you look at Los Angeles and San Francisco, these are the states which offer the most, healthy financial incentives for homeless to relocate to our cities. I'm in Los Angeles. It's very robust. So just, anyone who's making under $16,000 a year can get food stamps in California, any city. And that value is about $240 a month. And then, additionally, there's SSI, SSDI. And so we're finding that homeless can get anywhere from, $900 to $1,400 a month. Now, in San Francisco, what they did was they had COVID supplemental income and employment. This was during the COVID pandemic. So if you were in San Francisco, you could get, in addition to all of that, anywhere between $600 and $2,400 a month. That ran out at the end of September. That was through COVID. But you really see that, the bare minimum for many of these homeless who go through, SSI, SSDI, the, disability insurance can be anywhere from $900 to $1,400 a month, and that can get a little bit more. But what you see here, too, is that, maybe Ron doesn't want to take that. Maybe he doesn't want to go the route of a disability. And, maybe he has reasons for not wanting to take government welfare. But it sounds like what Ron is really, incentivized to be here is because California offers the best and most comprehensive free health care to both the homeless and to illegal immigrants. And that's a real driver. Whether or not you're collecting, disability insurance, what a lot of people come here for is the lucrative health care.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on the Mike Gallagher Show.
History-making tax and spend disaster. I mean, there's no other way to describe it. And this is why people were so angry at the Republicans in the Senate and the House who have supported Biden's scheme. Did you hear Trump was giving a speech Monday night? The Republican Congressional Committee had a dinner, and he blasted the 13 Republicans in the House. I think Nicole Maliotakis was in the room. She had to be squirming, because I'm sure President Trump held back, as he does. I'm sure he was very genteel and, very discreet.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
The most powerful organs of the state are not merely corrupt, but that they've been weaponized to go after perceived domestic enemies. And that's very scary.
Our constitutional democracy enshrines the peaceful transfer of power.
We are now all rooting for his success. The peaceful transition of power is one of the hallmarks of our democracy.
We don't live in the United States of America as is any of us would like to understand it.
We have a peaceful transition of power process. That's not what happened.
They interviewed General Flynn, and they did it in what was a complete ambush.
I thought it's early enough. Let's just send a couple guys over.
And the audience was, ha, 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 ha. How funny to set up an innocent man.
This is what third world security states do. They spy on their political opponents like this.
This is part of a concerted Russian influence operation.
Russian interference.
They colluded. They were in on it.
He would constantly say, I have seen evidence of collusion.
Until this is released, I can't comment. I can't go into the particulars.
Russians, I'm not going to be specific.
He knew he could just say it on TV and then hide behind, well, it's all classified, I can't get into it.
Well, it's classified. You can't see it.
Collusion. You just got to be willing to see it.
New York's Daily News ran this front page, Trump is Hitler.
How could 62 million Americans vote for Hitler? Are 62 million Americans Nazis?
We really almost thought it was a joke, like really you're not going to accept that you lost this election.
Then they see the Russia collusion narrative sitting right there in front of them and say, why don't we just say that he cheated?
It divided the country in ways that people can't imagine. It's inspired massive violence. It's given people who are bad faith actors a license to do whatever they want because they literally feel like they're fighting Russian spies and Nazis.
Russiagate has been the most egregious abuse of everything that was supposed to have been good about our government.
The thing that they were investigating the Trump campaign for is what they themselves were doing.
Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
So why?
Testimony, Your Honor.
Pardon me?
That was before the
Don't
defense testimony.
get brazen with me. You knew very well. You know very well that an attorney can't go into these types of areas when the judge has already ruled without asking outside the presence of the jury to do so. So don't give me that. That's number one.
I have to tell you, I haven't sat in front of a lot of judges in real time. I did it once for a speeding ticket in my life. I have watched many trials on TV, real ones. I don't think I've ever seen a judge as pissed as that. He actually looked, if you weren't watching on the video, he looked infuriated. He was jumping up in his seat and he said, "Don't get brazen with me," to the deputy district attorney.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at rumble.com.
I grew up poor, which is even worse than being poor.
We would have sandwiches with no meat.
My American dream entailed working hard and making $20,000 a year. But I surpassed that goal and became a corporate CEO.
We'll all be able to say, free at last, free at last.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.
The Democratic Party somehow has convinced black people that they're the good guys. Never mind the skanky history of the Democratic Party. That was a party of slavery.
There is a whole big cottage industry for racism. If racism went away, a lot of people would be unemployed.
The mob during the Minneapolis riots following the death of George Floyd. A bunch of white thugs, frankly, burning down the city's traditional black and Asian business district.
They're racist, racist, racist. Everything's racist.
Morning, Glory America, Bonjour, hi Canada. I'm Hugh Hewitt inside the Beltway, where the headlines are all about the inflation numbers that came out yesterday. Inflation puts White House on defensive as Manchin raises concerns about new spending is the headline in the Wall Street Journal and the Washington Post. And indeed, 6.2% inflation means trouble for all Americans. But this is Veterans Day. And while I keep my eye on the headlines for breaking news, I also make sure that every 11/11 we celebrate America's veterans who have served, and especially those who have been wounded in the wars over the last 20 years, defending America from terrorism and extremism around the globe. The Semper Fi Fund began in 2003 when Marines began to come home wounded and without support at Camp Pendleton, and it has grown from there into a $256 million giant effort over 20 years to help the tens of thousands of wounded warriors of all branches. They began with the Marines, and that's the Semper Fi Fund. Then they opened up America's Fund for the other branches. Both funds work together now under the fund.org. You can call in a contribution this morning at 760-725-3680. I'll give the snail mail address at the end of the hour like I did last hour, but let's begin by talking with Sergeant Jose Gonzalez. I'm joined now by Sergeant Jose Gonzalez of the United States Marine Corps. Good morning, Sergeant. Where do we find you today?
Morning, sir. I'm here in Uvalde, Texas, South Texas, south of San Antonio.
Now you're my first Texan today on a Veterans Day. Normally they load me up with Texans, and I hear all this stuff about football that's not true, but I'm glad to have a Texan today. Sergeant, when were you injured? How were you injured?
Several incidents. 2005, I deployed to Iraq. I was in the Al-Anbar province. I was in Haditha corridor, and I was struck by. I was on foot the first time. We were looking for an IED. We had seen a diversion device that was placed on the road, and we stopped and did our search, and lo and behold, they had set another one just as they knew they knew what we were going to do as far as finding one. So they set something on the road, and they made us kind of stop and pull over. And so we walked up on it, me and my platoon sergeant, and it went off. Luckily, the blast was caught by a lot of the hard top, so we didn't sustain that serious of injuries. So that was the first one. Second one, I was chased by a vehicle-borne IED. So a van pulled off to the side of the road, and we stopped and told it to get off the side of the road. And it did what it was supposed to do. And as we passed, it jumped in our convoy and chased the first vehicle, which was the one that I was driving. And we were able to get it to premature detonate. So it went off as soon as it was about to hit our vehicle. I was trying to do some evasive maneuvers, and as soon as I was to pull off the side of the ravine, it detonated and destroyed our Humvee. Luckily, everybody was able to walk away. Everybody but myself and the gunner was ejected. So, in all, those two incidents, I mean, I consider myself pretty lucky.
Pretty lucky,
was able to walk away.
What kind of wounds?
Blunt force trauma. Personally, I had two concussions, one from each. I had wounds to my palm and my right hand, and then on the second one, the same thing, concussion, and then a blunt force trauma to my right elbow.
Well, two IEDs. I'm amazed by that. What has been your recovery like? How's the Semper Fi Fund helped you?
Well, they've been. I've known them. I've actually been a part of them for a very long time, since if you know what Team Semper Fi is.
Yep.
I was part of their first first group. There was like 10 of us that were original Team Semper Fi members, and I'm fortunate to have been one of their initial members. But the Semper Fi Fund, I met them when I did some liaison duty for the wounded at Brooke Army Medical Center in San Antonio. So I was first introduced to them in 2006, shortly after my injuries.
So it's been 15 years. How have they helped you?
Well, initially, the recovery through sport was the thing that basically piqued my interest. I was an athlete, or still am. I'm still an athlete. We never lose that. But I was, played sports my entire life, and so once they were talking about, having some type of recovery through sport, it wasn't the sports that I was used to. I'm not used to running marathons or doing triathlons or bike riding, long distances. But either way, it was a good opportunity for me to do my recovery through sports. So I got involved with them through that. And then once I found out, more along the lines of what they were doing, I didn't initially get help through the actual fund other than the Team Semper Fi until later on down the road. They were actually able to fly me home because my mom got sick while I was in Bethesda, Maryland, doing liaison work down in at the National Naval Medical Center. So,
Sergeant, you now run something. According to my notes, it's called Hustle Athletics. It's in San Antonio. We got a great audience in San Antonio. What is that?
Yes, sir. Well, it's actually in Uvalde. That's my hometown. I lived in San Antonio for about 10 years after I got out of the military and just recently came back home. And so I started an athletic training company for kids. And so I started training athletes, young kids, during COVID because all their school programs and all their facilities were shut down. So I used my background in athletics and what I'm going to school for. And so I started training athletes on the side, during COVID. And once that started to clear up and they went back to school, I actually started training adults for my I guess you can say that my specialty is weight loss. So I have a weight loss gym. So Hustle Fitness and Hustle Athletics are basically my company that I run just recently. So about a year and some change in.
Did you go through the apprentice program? Because they help a lot of entrepreneurs, and Hustle Athletics sounds like an entrepreneurial effort.
Well, I basically I started out of my truck. I had some equipment already, some small things like some hurdles and some ladders and some cones and stuff, and that's basically how I started. And once I was introduced from another Marine at the Marine Corps Marathon, they were talking about this apprentice program, and so I had put in for that. And thankfully, unfortunately, I got approved, and so that's when I actually started an actual facility. Without that, I've always had big dreams of being a small business owner. I always felt like I was, built to do something like that. And, we always have all these good ideas. And without that apprenticeship program, honestly, I don't know that it would have gotten to where it is now. I'm super successful. I can't even tell you how grateful I am for that opportunity. It's been the best thing that's ever happened to me, honestly.
Well, that is inspiring, Sergeant, because a lot of the wounded warriors come back and do start businesses, and they do succeed. They need help along the way, and you've just told that story better than I could. So, Sergeant Gonzalez, a very great Veterans Day to you. Thank you for joining me today.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Remember that Semper Fi Fund and America's Fund provide immediate financial assistance when necessary. They also provide the training that you just heard the Sergeant talk about. You can call in a donation at 760-725-3680, or you just simply go to thefund.org, and that will give you a chance of Semper Fi Fund, America's Fund, or both, $10 to $100,000, whatever you want to do. It all goes, and they have the 7% overhead, which is the lowest. That's why they have 4 stars from Charity Navigator for 10 years running. They have an A+, which is only one of 3 veterans organizations from Charity Watch. It's very hard to get an A+. And they have the Platinum Seal of Transparency from GuideStar. It is double down for Veterans March Time, as well as the Renee and Bob Parsons Foundation are matching donations up to $10 million through December 31st of this year. And so your donation will go twice as far when you make it today. Please be generous. Head over to thefund.org. I'm noting on the news feed this morning that F.W. de Klerk, South African Nobel Prize laureate, along with Nelson Mandela and Bishop Tutu, died today at the age of 85. De Klerk very famously opened up the apartheid regime of South Africa to the return of Nelson Mandela and to multiracial rule. A great man passing away at age 85 today. We also had President Biden up in Baltimore yesterday. Can I play those clips? This is kind of amazing. Here's President Biden, cut number 4 from yesterday.
They go to the store online and they can't, they go to the store or go online and they can't find what they always want.
You know, I actually haven't had that problem, but he thinks it's there. Cut number 5.
Everything from a gallon of gas to a loaf of bread costs more. And it's worrisome, even though wages are going up.
That's what happens when you have 6% inflation. Cut number 6, more Joe Biden.
How many times, if you don't live in an area where you have high-speed internet you can afford, how many times you've driven your kids to the parking lot of McDonald's and sat there going off the McDonald's internet so you could hear?
I'm not sure I've ever done that. Finally, cut number 7. I love this one.
Does everything keep paying this much for a gallon of gas? In some parts of California, they're paying $4.50 a gallon.
Yeah, Dwayne paid that on the way to the studio this morning. But on Veterans Day, we put aside politics and we celebrate those who've been wounded. Please be generous to the Semper Fi Fund and America's Fund at thefund.org. I'll be right back live on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
If a vote were taken only among black Americans, do you believe math answers should be changed so that all groups get higher grades? What would the vote be?
Nobody would go for that. No one would go for it. I'm glad you went to education. This is my wheelhouse. And perfect point. Just today, I tweeted out an email I got from the school announcing this wonderful culturally relevant education that they're going to move to. And it talks just about that. And it specifically says English, which is bad enough, and math, right? Culturally, teaching things culturally relevant. And I say this a lot when I talk to people because they don't get it. You're right, the number's 0. But that's why I scream with my megaphone, because no one knows this is happening. You have the CRT debate, and people just say, well, we just want to teach proper history. And I said, I don't care what label, just from my own personal way of explaining the situation, don't care what you call it. I'm not going to get into a debate about a title. What I will say is there are problematic things happening in school. I can show you proof that it's there, and it's dangerous. So to whites, do you want your 12-year-old coming home saying, well, I'm an oppressor? Do you want them being told that they can change their gender, but don't tell your mommy and daddy? Because that's happening. And to blacks who, like I said earlier, say, well, that's their problem. We don't have to deal with it. Do you want them saying blacks can't learn math unless we teach it in the black way, right? Because I think we've all been learning math for years and there is no black way. But they think they're helping. If black parents knew that, they would be livid.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on the Larry Elder Show.
Yeah, it was a fateful day, 4th of July of 2020. And my friend Mike, he always tried to tell me about politics and about Trump and about Christianity and stuff. And at the time, I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want to hear anything about Trump. I thought he was racist. I don't want to hear that. But just that day, brought my son over and we had like a little get together. And he was like, let me tell you something about politics. Like, here we go, But I sat down and I listened to him, and he kept asking me these questions like, why do you think Trump is racist? Or where do you get the information from? Like, the news said it, and then he would explain why, that is. You know what I mean? Like, they chopped his videos up. He showed me full videos. I'm like, that's interesting. And then I put 2 and 2 together. Like I said in many lives, like, lots of other celebrities have been bashed. Tupac, you know what I'm saying? Malcolm X, right. All those people. Anytime that you do something for the public, you do something positive, the media bash you, or worse, you could even lose your life half the time. So I put 2 and 2 together. I'm like, but I just didn't think that they would actually lie on the president like that, because he's the president.
Please.
That's what I thought. I'm like, you can't lie on the president.
That's why they were lying on him.
They were stunned when he became president. They hated his guts from day one.
Yeah.
You know, this is a guy, Lowe's, as you know. You go on YouTube and find before he became president, hanging out with rappers, hanging out with Jesse Jackson, hanging out with Al Sharpton.
Exactly.
And because his name is Trump, it's easy to rhyme. So a whole bunch of rappers used his name in raps. They liked him. They liked his swagger. They liked the fact that he made a lot of money and was not apologetic about that.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden he becomes president because he has an R at the end of his name. Now he's an SOB.
Yeah. It's mind blowing. It definitely taught me something, and I think like politics is becoming popular now. Even people who aren't into politics are into politics now.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because this is the first time that the younger generation is actually feeling the effects of a bad president now.
Mm-hmm. Keep up with what's trending.
Streaming on Salem Now.
The public would be outraged if they knew the truth.
Why do you think our politicians are not on the sidewalk right now talking to you?
Don't have no respect.
The old wall randomly turns into a guardrail, followed by miles of open border.
Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Happy Veterans Day, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt. Thanks to every man and woman who has served, is serving, and to their spouses and their children, as well as their parents and their friends and family. It's really extraordinary. The Semper Fi Fund and America's Fund provide bedside financial support to wounded warriors, housing, transportation, specialized and adapted equipment, caregiver support. They have the Welcome Home program for Vietnam veterans called Lance Corporal Parsons Welcome Home. They have the Skips Kids program, visiting nurses. Disaster relief matters a lot. They do education and career assistance, veteran-to-veteran programs, apprenticeship programs. They do it all. PTSD and TBI support, neurofitness, high-tech wellness devices. You name it. They do fundraising in a variety of ways, including this show annually, when we just bring them in and ask you to help the veterans of America recover from wounds they've suffered defending you. You can host a fundraiser. You can do one-time support or recurring support. Ask your employer if they will match funds, and if you're a combined federal campaign participant, the number is 11459. 11459. Let's now hear from Sergeant Lawrence Hudson. Joined now by Sergeant Lawrence Hudson of the United States Army to talk about the fund.org. Good morning, Sergeant. Welcome to the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Good morning.
Happy Veterans Day to you. Tell me when and how were you injured, and how did the fund help you?
Fund's helped me in lots of ways. I was injured in Fallujah in 2004 during Operation Phantom Fury.
That is, and what kind of wound did you receive, Sergeant?
I have a brain injury. I got a 7-millimeter hole in the left side of my brain.
And how did the fund arrive at your bedside? How did you find out about them, and how have they helped you?
Well, I came back from the war, and then I tried different veteran organizations and was going through polytrauma and stuff through the VA hospital. And then a Marine that I served with told me about the fund, and I kind of felt like I was all alone until a lot of other veteran organizations I didn't really seem to fit in, and then I found the fund through the horsemanship program they have.
Oh, Jinx McCain, you bet.
We started doing cattle drives, and through that I kind of felt like I was part of a team again, hanging out with other people doing cattle drives, and didn't feel quite alone. And since then, my caseworker Teresa has also helped me and my family get closer by sending us different things during COVID for like family game night and different things.
Talk to us a little bit about that, Sergeant, because COVID is a big challenge for every veterans organization. I know the fund has been innovating a lot. How did they help you with COVID-related matters?
COVID stuff, we live in Montana, so we're kind of isolated where we live. So when things shut down, things really shut down. So they did different events, like we did a murder mystery through a Zoom call, which had me and my wife and all my kids together sitting around doing that. We also did Zoom calls just for my kids so they could do crafts and learn new things.
I didn't know about this. COVID has changed everything, but I knew the fund wouldn't be deterred by this. Thefund.org if you want to contribute. So, Sergeant, where in Montana are you, and how is the recovery going? It's been a long time since you were wounded. The Battle of Fallujah is 2 decades ago. And how are you doing?
I'm doing better. I still have my own problems and stuff. I have PTSD from the war, but I'm doing a lot better.
That is true. Which part of Montana?
People I can talk to. I'm in Thompson Falls, Montana.
Well, you are out there. Well, I appreciate your joining me today, Sergeant, and continued good luck in your recovery. And thanks for telling people about thefund.org. Happy Veterans Day, Sergeant.
Happy Veterans. Oh, thanks.
He's one of many great veterans I've got today. The phone number to call them is 760-725-3680. But I think the best thing is just to go to thefund.org. Time for my sponsor, andrewandtodd.com, and I'm looking at the Wall Street Journal this morning where they have the news that homes typically sell in a week, forcing buyers to take risks. That's for data ending in June. In the year ending in June, homes were on the market for 1 week, which means that buyers have to take risks and waive inspections and all that sort of thing. Oh, you don't get the house. You also won't get the house if you don't have financing. That's why you go to andrewandtodd.com. Right now, Andrew Del Rey, Todd Avakian, together they are great sponsors of the Hugh Hewitt Show. And so every day the Wall Street Journal covers something about housing. And every day I tell you, if you're in the market, go to andrewandtodd.com or call them at 888-888-1172. They are with Sierra Pacific Mortgage. They lend you the money you need to buy that house or to refinance the house that you're in. 888-888-1172 connects you to andrewandtodd.com. The Semper Fi Fund is at 760-725-3680. I should just say the fund is at 760-725-3680 or thefund.org. Stay tuned.
Streaming on Salem Now.
We'll see one young lady identify as transgender, and the next thing you know, 6 or 7 young ladies in that same school are now identifying as transgender.
Children taught at age 5 they can create their gender identity, and it's being celebrated.
Schools are lining up to push the transgender agenda on kids and cut parents out of the equation.
Every cell of their body that has a nucleus is male or female.
We've now seen parents losing custody of their children if they don't go along with this.
We've all been created XY or XX, so that means there's only 2 genders. And so really the battle is against the creator.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Trending now on the Mike Gallagher Show.
About the way the Biden administration is blaming everybody and anybody but themselves for the mess that this country is in right now. Look at if you're worried about the shortage of goods and due to the supply chain crisis, you're right to be worried. But Biden and his team are blaming us. And it's not just the Biden administration, it's the anti-capitalist media beast. Have you seen lately some of the articles about how we buy too much? We're just buying too much stuff. Recent opinion pieces in outlets like the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Atlantic, Time Magazine, and Business Insider argue that the supply chain broke because we Americans want too much. The desire for goods itself is just fundamentally wrong. And these articles claiming we buy too much stuff have proliferated as a way to direct the narrative away from the administration's incompetence. It also reflects a growing contempt for the consumer economy, a contempt that feeds off the near-religious belief that capitalism is destroying the planet and is part of the over-the-top hysteria over global warming. This is an ideology. The ideology says, as Jonathan Tobin writes, it's an ideology that believes that we deserve to suffer because of our supposed excesses.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
Right now, based upon how the judge is responding to the way that this evil bunch of hyenas are trying to make... the fact of the matter is this. Rittenhouse killed 2 people. Both of them were criminals. One of them had just been released from jail for doing what? Raping young boys. If it were up to me, that would be a death penalty automatic in America. Rape a child, death. End of story. That's the reason nations create capital punishment. He got out, which is just so understanding and empathetic of us. He threatened people all day, and then he used force and threatened Kyle Rittenhouse, who was there to help people when he wasn't a community pool lifeguard. And that man shot to death the child rapist. Rot in hell. The second man, oh yes, with a rap sheet for what? Assaulting women. He got killed as well after he swung at Kyle Rittenhouse with a skateboard to his head. Not all the tears will be shed for that man, I'm sure, in any community of decent Americans. And then the third guy who approached him with a Glock pointed to Kyle's head, who then had his bicep blown off by that brave young man. Come on, guys. Acquit, or better yet, mistrial.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at rumble.com. Trending now on The Charlie Kirk Show.
Are you at all thinking about some relief on any of your mandates?
Listen, there's mandate fatigue everywhere, including with yours truly, so let there be no doubt about that. At the moment, no.
This guy is a...
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube.
Welcome back, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt inside the Beltway on this Veterans Day. I hope you will find a chance to visit a Veterans Day ceremony somewhere. I'm doing the one at the Rocky Versace Memorial in the city of Alexandria, Virginia today. It's an amazing memorial. I've been taken around there, and it's really quite a special place, which they do an annual Veterans Day ceremony. I think it's at 1 o'clock today. And on Veterans Day, as I've been doing for 17 years, since the year after the Semper Fi Fund was founded by Wendy Lethine and Karen Gunther and others, Marine Corps wives sitting around a kitchen table in Camp Pendleton, California, I've just asked members of the services who've been helped by the Semper Fi Fund and America's Fund, which are both found at thefund.org, to talk to me and give me a call about where they are and what they're doing. Let's go now to Sergeant Alex Nguyen. Joined now by Sergeant Alex Nguyen, United States Marine Corps. Good morning, Sergeant. Where do I find you this morning?
Over here in Omaha, Nebraska.
No college football up there. I'm sorry about that, Sergeant.
Yeah, no kidding, right?
Well, I'm from Ohio, and we're playing Nebraska every year now, and I'm kind of happy to have that happen. When were you injured, Sergeant, and how's the Semper Fi Fund helped you?
I was injured in September 20th of 2011, and Semper Fi Fund has just been there pretty much. I want to say I met my case manager from there probably a week after getting to Portsmouth, Virginia.
How were you wounded, Sergeant? Can you tell us?
Yeah, I was in a mounted, so I was in my vehicle, IED blast, and just shattered both my ankles, broke my left leg and left foot.
Oh my gosh! And so, how's the recovery gone?
It was kind of slow at first. Ended up having to amputate my right leg below the knee. left leg isn't doing too bad. But other than that, I mean, it was a long process, but got through it.
Did you know of Semper Fi Fund before you ended up in the hospital?
No, I had no idea who they were. Never even heard of them.
How did they find you?
I'm assuming that it's just one of those things where they kind of connect with wounded service members. So I'm assuming that's probably how they found me.
And how have they helped you? The Semper Fi Fund does a lot of different things for a lot of different wounded veterans. How have they helped you out, Sergeant?
Oh, man, there's been numerous times where they've helped out. I mean, there's a couple of years ago, my Silverado just decided to snap an axle in the middle of the highway and stuff.
Oops.
And so Tina, my case manager, she, sent over money to help with repairs on that and stuff. And then a month and a half later, my transmission went out somehow, and she sent more money over for that. So, and then on top of it, they always send my kids presents and birthday gifts and cards and stuff on their birthdays and stuff. So it's kind of, they're pretty good people.
They're terrific people. I do this every year because I talk to veterans like you, and they show up in extraordinary ways. And I always like to ask, was there red tape in getting the transmission fixed or the axle repaired?
No, not at all. Pretty much they just asked me what I could cover, and then they spoke with the dealership and went ahead and they made their end of the payment to them, and that was pretty much it, and let me know that the payment was sent over and to go pick up my vehicle. So it was pretty good. It was, pretty stressful because I think my sophomore year in college, so
yeah, you need a truck.
Challenge.
Last question for you, Sergeant. In terms of Nebraska veterans community, I think of Nebraska and I think of corn and Big Red, of course. But is there a veterans community up there? Is there a lot of you?
There is quite a few of us here. A lot of them are mainly Air Force. We have a big Air Force base out here right outside of Omaha. But, I mean, I come across Marines and Army guys all the time. My neighborhood, I just bought a house a couple months ago. There's at least 4 veterans on my block, so it's pretty nice. And the guy I bought the house from, he's actually a Navy veteran, so it's kind of nice.
Well, that is terrific. I'm glad to hear your recovery continues and is going well, Sergeant. Thank you for joining me. Have a great Veterans Day.
I appreciate you, sir. Have a good one.
Thank you. You can't say that actually enough. You've got to thank everyone who has served, especially those who've been wounded, and especially their spouses and their families. Everybody serves, especially those who are at home when a soldier, sailor, airman, or Marine deploys for 9 months to a year and sometimes longer, but especially when they're wounded. Let's talk now with Sergeant First Class Charlie Pepin Rivera. Joined now by Sergeant First Class Charlie Pepin Rivera. I hope I got that right, Sergeant. Did I get that right?
You got it right. Yes, sir.
Well, that is terrific. Thank you for joining me this morning. Where do we find you?
Thank you. I'm here in Cleveland, Ohio.
Oh, go Browns! Are you into it?
Yes, sir.
Well, the Steelers did us dirty in First Energy, but I'm glad to hear. I think I've been doing this show for 17 years, and I'm the first time that I've been able to talk to a wounded warrior from Cleveland. I think they keep that away because they know I'll just go along with you. Tell me about yourself, Sergeant.
Well, I was born and raised in Puerto Rico. I did 24 years in the Army, retired. I'm a wounded warrior. I retired from San Antonio, Texas. I loved it there, but had to move here to be closer to family. And now I'm here, enjoying the cold weather, which is not good for me, but I'm liking it. I'm having fun and everything. I'm married. I have 6 children, and just
now, Sergeant Pepin Rivera, whereabouts in Cleveland is a big place. I mean, there's Parma and there's Warren. I mean, everyone calls Cleveland. Which part of Cleveland are you in?
Cleveland Heights.
You got it. All right, so I hope you've become a Brown and Guardian fan.
Of course, why not? Of course.
All right, just checking. What were the nature of your injuries when you sustained them, Sergeant, and how did the Semper Fi Fund and the fund help you out?
Well, I was assigned to the 2-5 Infantry Battalion out of Hawaii, Schofield Barracks, Hawaii. We deployed first to Afghanistan. That's where I fell off a helicopter. We were coming back from a mission, and I fell 25, 30 feet, and that's how I got my TBI, my brain injury. After that, I was supposed to get out, But I told them, no, I want to do 30. I want to retire. I want to, I want to keep going. And they let me stay in. 2 years later, went back to Afghanistan, and I got shot, my left shoulder. Came back, told them, no, I want to stay. I want to support my family. I couldn't stay. I did 24 years, and I had to retire medically. But, I will do it again, all over again if I have to.
Well, Sergeant, that's 24 years more than I have done, and most of our audience are civilians by far. So thank you for every day of those 24 years. Since retiring, how has it gone with the recovery, with the integration into civilian society, with your, 6 kids? How's it gone?
Well, it was hard. I've been retired for 3 years. It was hard. Honestly, I was in a dark place. TBI, PTSD. I didn't want to leave the house. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I was almost to the point of committing suicide because I didn't want to be a burden to my wife or my family. And I was in a bad place. And with my injuries, I had to have another surgery on my shoulder because my shoulder got a bacterial infection.
Ooh.
So here we go, 14 surgeries later. I'm like, you know what, I can't do this. And so I was in a bad place. But thanks to Team Semper Fi, I used to do triathlons. I used to do cycling, running, doing a lot of different things. And through my case manager, I got in contact with them. And they told me, hey, what do you want? What do you need? How we can help you? I told them, well, I don't know if you can help me, but I want to get back to the same place I was before. I want to be me. I want to be myself. So they told me, okay, we're going to help you out. So the same day, 3 team members from Team Semper Fi called me the same day. And I'm like, really? Why? So they called me. One of them was the cycling director. Another one called me, hey, do you want to do golf? What do you want to do? How can we help you? I told them, this is what I want to do. And they send me a free home gym equipment to start getting ready for training. I do with them every week strength training. We do cycling every week. And so they've been supporting me a lot. I just did a race, a 55-mile bike race this past Sunday. I went to Sebring, Florida. Did 55 miles in less than 3 hours.
Oh, wow.
And feel better, feel good. And thanks to Team Semper Fi, because they honestly, if I have to write a book or a movie, the title will be Team Semper Fi Saved My Life. Because they did. They saved my life. And I'm here because of them.
Well, Sergeant Pepin Rivera, I can't top that. I do have to ask, though, what do the 6 kids think about Dad becoming a triathlete monster?
They are proud. They are proud, and I want them to be proud of me. And that's one of the things that I was struggling with. I'm like, hey, man, they're going to see me with my injuries, and who's going to be proud of their dad when you can't walk or raise your arms and stuff like that? But Team Semper Fi helped me, and my kids they're proud. They go to my races, they support me, and they're proud. That's my dad, you know, and so they're happy.
That is so terrific. Sergeant Pepin Rivera, a very great Veterans Day to you and to all of your family. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Go Browns. You can help the fund, and that's the Semper Fi Fund and America's Fund, help people like the Sergeant and everyone else you've been hearing today by simply going to thefund.org. You can call 760-725-3680. Their offices are closed on Veterans Day, but you can leave a message. They'll call you back. We're here at work, of course. But we will tell you the snail mail address in the next segment. Let me also thank my sponsor, KeyCityCapital.com. They are a great sponsor of the show. If you want to find out how to save money on your taxes and how to invest wisely in an era of high inflation, Charlie Dombeck and the team at KeyCityCapital.com/Hugh are standing by and ready to work with you. I gather dozens of you have already called Charlie and talked to him. And the way to get in touch with him is simply by going to www.keycitycapital.com/Hugh. And they will begin with a thorough scrub of past taxes and future taxes and then help you take investments, put them into safe, diversified investments. This is not an offer to sell or a particular recommendation of anything that they do, only that the people that do it are extraordinarily talented group of people down in Texas. Charlie came up to D.C., sat down with me. We had a wonderful, wonderful conversation. I agreed, okay, I will tell people about keycitycapital.com/Hugh, because I'm impressed. I'm very impressed. I think you will be as well, especially if you want to put some of your retirement into, or some of your savings into apartment houses that are really kind of the greatest, most stable environment going right now. That's keycitycapital.com/Hugh. Let me also remind you, relieffactor.com on this Veterans Day. If you're going out to Arlington, if you're in the Beltway, if you're going to Riverside National Cemetery, you're listening to me on 590 in the Inland Empire as you're heading out towards work today on the coast. No matter where you are, maybe you're near the VA in Los Angeles, wherever you are, from Maine to San Diego, from Florida up to Alaska. Remember to honor the veterans today, but get your relieffactor.com in you before you go out and do that. If you have a long commute especially, take it before you get in that car and sit in that position for an hour and a half. Fetching Mrs. Hewitt drove home yesterday 4 hours, and normally it's about a 3-hour drive from the grandkids' house, but 4 hours yesterday. That kind of traffic kills a lot of people. It really does. It creates back problems and leg problems, but not if you're taking relieffactor.com, at least not as much. It will help with those minor aches and pains, but you got to take it every day. The 3-week starter pack is $19.95 at relieffactor.com. It's Veterans Day. Come back after the break on the other side as we continue to roll along. Remember, thefund.org, thefund.org. I am Hugh Hewitt.
This is Carol Platt-Liebau for townhall.com. 30 years have passed since Justice Clarence Thomas was confirmed to the U.S. Supreme Court. His tenure there has been consequential indeed. He's the court's foremost proponent of natural law, an understanding that our individual rights are transcendent and come from God. This understanding undergirds his approach to the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, powerfully informing the justice's unyielding commitment to limited government and equal justice before the law. Over the last 5 years, Justice Thomas has authored more opinions than any of his colleagues on the Supreme Court. His influence only continues to grow, and he's beloved by the scores of people who know him. He knows the names of the children of the marshals who guard the courthouse. He's mentored generations of clerks, treating them like family, and his distinctive, hearty laugh rings out within his judicial chambers. May God bless this great, good, and brilliant man, and may he serve on the court many years longer.
Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
Phrase. Feminism always had a very strong anti-male component. Feminism was never only about women's equality. If it was about women's equality, it would have disbanded decades ago. Who denies that men and women are equal? I have not met that human being. I'm sure one exists. There are people who believe Elvis Presley is still living. But they don't exist in any numbers. It is a non-issue. There is a hostility to men that is in the DNA of feminism.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
Now, what made you begin to rap about politics like this, and conservative politics?
Yeah, just being inspired by the message, you know what I mean? There was a whole lot of other influencers and people who have went through a lot of things by speaking the truth, you know what I mean? And it was almost something I just, absolutely couldn't ignore. And as far as African Americans, I mean, we've been a target for a long time, you know what I mean? And they use us for votes and everything else. And as soon as they say racism, we jump right on it. You know what I mean? I feel like as an African American, it's really important to, teach your fellow Americans and then your African Americans the truth. That's how you guide them. That's how you lead them. You know what I mean? By actually giving them real knowledge about what's really going on.
Loza, are you registered Republican?
Yeah.
Did you vote for me?
Yeah.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
Streaming on Salem Now.
This is a story of how 1 million children were placed with local foster families through an unlikely alliance between the Chinese government and a British footballer.
Now.com.
Did you know that the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier had laid to rest its first unknown soldier, either a doughboy or a devil dog, 100 years ago today in 1921, 3 years after the conclusion of World War I. There will be ceremonies at Arlington today to commemorate that. That's over at thewashingtonpost.com if you want to see the video of that day from 100 years ago. I'm glad to always dedicate Veterans Day on the Hugh Hewitt Show to the Semper Fi Fund and America's Fund. I think they are the best place to go if you want to help out wounded warriors because of their ratings from all the charity watch groups. All three of the big ones have given their highest rating. They're only one of three veteran charities that have received the A+ from Charity Watch. They've got 4 stars from Charity Navigator. They have the Platinum Seal of Approval and Transparency from GuideStar. They've raised $256 million over the years of their existence. Now in their 18th year, their 17th year, I've done this show on Veterans Day. Let's hear from Sergeant Dustin Biggerstaff on what thefund.org has done for him. Joined now by Sergeant Dustin Biggerstaff of the United States Marine Corps. Good morning, Sergeant. Thank you for joining me. Where do we find you today?
Good morning. I'm hailing out of Cumming, Georgia, just northeast of Atlanta.
You're my second Bulldog today. You know the Buckeyes are going to put them down when it comes time for the playoffs, don't you, Sergeant?
Well, it's a good thing I'm not a Bulldogs fan. I'm actually a UK Wildcats fan.
Well, that's a long season till the basketball comes around. All right, Sergeant, when were you wounded and how did the Semper Fi Fund help you?
Well, I was initially wounded in 2015 and then sustained a second injury to the same eye in 2018. And I got in contact with Team Semper Fi as I was transitioning out, being medically retired in 2019. And it's been a life changer. You know, I was planning on doing 20 years. I got stopped short of that at 9. And they helped me find new purpose in life and focus, and kept me mentally and physically strong. So immediately that's how they've helped me.
Sergeant Biggerstaff, had you known about the Semper Fi Fund before you were wounded?
No, to be honest, no, I did not.
So how did they connect with you? You didn't wake up in a hospital saying, get Semper Fi Fund. How did they find you?
So during the 2018 timeframe, they opened up the base to medically retired personnel. And my next door neighbor was actually deeply involved with the Semper Fi Fund. He's a double amputee. And so he got me in contact with them, but I couldn't officially be in contact with them until I was transitioning out. So during my transition time out, they reached out to me, and then they got the ball rolling then.
How have they helped you, Sergeant?
From transitional grants when I was moving, gas cards, grocery cards. They've helped with grants to help me buy running shoes. Running is like my yoga, so they've helped with that. Getting me into certain races for entry fees. They've sent out gifts for my family. So they've reduced the amount of financial burden and the opportunities to allow me to be, again, mentally focused. That's really what they've done a great job with doing.
Now, Sergeant Biggerstaff, this year the Marine Corps Marathon was not held in Washington because of COVID. I hope you will be participating in the Team Semper Fi runners are always an inspiration. I live inside the Beltway. We go whenever we can. It's a great race. Have you done that one yet? Do you plan on?
I have. My first experience was in 2019, and boy, was that a memorable one because about half the course was underwater.
Oh, gosh. It's the best marathon in America, whether it's flooded or not. And I'm glad that you're going to be back and doing that. How long are you running a week now, Sergeant?
It varies. Last year, it was anywhere from 50 to 60 miles a week.
Oh, my gosh.
This year is a little different because I'm doing triathlons, Ironmans. So I'm about 30 miles a week running now.
How old are you?
I am 35.
Watch those knees, Sergeant. I'm an old man. I'm 65, and now I trundle. I don't run. That's a lot of running. And you have 2 kids, is that right?
I do. I have a 7-year-old boy and a 5-year-old girl.
Do they run with you ever? Do you get them out for 100 yards or anything like that?
They do. They've run up to 3 miles with me before.
Oh, that is terrific. Sergeant, thank you for joining me. I'm glad that you told the story. We can't tell it unless we actually talk to veterans like you. Thank you for your support of the fund and your continued recovery. Have a great Veterans Day.
Thank you. You too.
That is an amazing story. I find amazing stories every time I do this show, every single year. Here's the snail mail address for the Semper Fi Fund and America's Fund. 825 College Boulevard. 825 College Boulevard, Suite 102. PMB 609, Peter Mary Baker 609. Oceanside, California, 92057. You can make the check out to the fund. If you're an old-fashioned person, you just want to send them a check. That's the fund at 825 College Boulevard, Suite 102, PMB 609, Oceanside, California 92057, or simply visit thefund.org. I have a few more conversations with wounded warriors coming up in the third hour of today's live broadcast on Veterans Day. Remember, it is Veterans Day. Some of you are working, some of you are off. Whether you're off or you're working, remember to thank the veterans and their families in your lives, especially those who have been wounded in visible and invisible ways. Make sure they are part of your celebration and prayers this morning. I'll be back with Hour 3 of this morning's Hugh Hewitt Show.
Trending now on the Mike Gallagher Show.
And if you're wondering why people like Michael seem to have this weird agenda about the Kyle Rittenhouse case, there's a political component to this in a big way. Grabian put together a montage that perhaps allows you to understand why Michael in Sacramento feels the way he does. What drives the passion of people who want Kyle Rittenhouse to spend the rest of his life in jail. Listen to this beast monologue.
Kenosha shooter, Kyle Rittenhouse, he murdered 2 people, by the way.
Rittenhouse is basically what you would have had in a school shooter. He's a 17-year-old kid. He shouldn't have had a gun. He crossed state lines to supposedly protect property. No, he was going out to shoot people.
Kyle Rittenhouse, the 17-year-old vigilante.
Kyle Rittenhouse, a vigilante.
Kyle Rittenhouse, the armed teenage vigilante.
A 17-year-old vigilante, arguably a domestic terrorist, picked up a rifle, drove to a different state to shoot people.
Kyle Rittenhouse, a guy who's deeply racist, went with weapons to a Black Lives Matter protest looking to get in trouble. He did. He murdered a couple of people.
Rittenhouse, the 17-year-old kid, just running around, shooting and killing protesters.
Isn't that amazing? And you can look at the video. The rioters are chasing him down. It's like direct. Listen. I don't know what the jury is going to do on this. You don't know what juries do anymore in America, and this jury is probably afraid for their lives because, as one caller put it, they're already threatening the jurors, the woke mob. But if justice prevails in this case and he's acquitted, there are going to be a whole lot of MSNBC pundits with egg on their face.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
So why?
Testimony, Your Honor.
Pardon me?
That was before the
Don't
testimony.
get brazen with me. You knew very well. You know very well that an attorney can't go into these types of areas when the judge has already ruled without asking outside the presence of the jury to do so. So don't give me that. That's number one.
I have to tell you, I haven't sat in front of a lot of judges in real time. I did it once for a speeding ticket in my life. I have watched many trials on TV, real ones. I don't think I've ever seen a judge as pissed as that. He actually looked, if you weren't watching on the video, he looked infuriated. He was jumping up in his seat and he said, "Don't get brazen with me," to the deputy district attorney. look, predictions, it's a mug's game. But right now, based upon how the judge is responding to the way that this evil bunch of hyenas are trying to make... the fact of the matter is this. Rittenhouse killed 2 people. Both of them were criminals. One of them had just been released from jail for doing what? Raping young boys. If it were up to me, that would be a death penalty automatic in America. Rape a child, death. End of story. That's the reason nations create capital punishment. He got out, which is just so understanding and empathetic of us. He threatened people all day, and then he used force and threatened Kyle Rittenhouse.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at Rumble.
Streaming on Salem Now.
¿Cuánto queda?
No queda nada. Que lo siento mucho.
And that's the only time you can come to Christ, when the Spirit of God calls you to the cross. Don't you hesitate.
Have you ever thought of going to seminary?
Madre, Padre, ¿quién está listo para ser transformado por el poder de su palabra?
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Schools are lining up to push the transgender agenda on kids and cut parents out of the equation.
Go to salemnow.com.
Trending now on The Charlie Kirk Show.
I'm in charge. I'm the mob boss. Play cut 2.
Are you at all thinking about some relief on any of your mandates?
Listen, there's mandate fatigue everywhere, including with yours truly, so let there be no doubt about that. At the moment, no.
This guy is a scumbag. He is awful. Contrast that with Governor DeSantis, America's greatest governor, most courageous, and just announced his re-election campaign to become governor of Florida again. A well-deserved campaign of a man who has been overly courageous with now the lowest COVID rates in the country. Can you get if it's COVID rate, death rates, or virus rates? It's whatever it is. It's the lowest in the country.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
And that is, can you name an intelligent conservative? That's a riddle for them.
Well, they would scratch their head. Because then they're torn. If they say yes, then they've undercut their entire argument about the conservative movement. If they say no, then they know that intellectually, here it goes back to bite them. Intellectually, they can't say no because they do know that there are conservatives out there that they may disagree with, and they try to downplay, but are intelligent. Remember, there was an old saying. I don't know if you remember the show The West Wing. Yeah. There was a discussion, a very interesting show. It was very liberal, but there was times of conservative balance. At least they would at least attempt it. And there was a conversation one time between I think one of the characters, a Rob Lowe character, and then the Ansley Hayes character in the thing. So they were talking about, how could you be against this? The intellectual, you graduated from, good schools. How could this happen? And the Ansley Hayes character make this comment. She said, "You seem to forget it was basically the Harvard Club of the Harvard Washington Club that got us into Vietnam." And just making those kind of comments that bring it up, the fact that just because of establishment elitism, you believe your thoughts are right, doesn't mean that there's not another side. And that's the thing that the liberals can't assess to. I saw it firsthand with Jerry Nadler, with Eric Swalwell, with Steve Cohen, Mr. Chicken Bucket himself, which I talk about in the book. and Jamie Raskin and these others who believe themselves intellectually superior, and because they believe their ideas are what is right, when in actuality they're disconnected from mainstream.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
Streaming on Salem Now.
The Democratic Party somehow has convinced black people that they're the good guys. Never mind the skanky history of the Democratic Party. That was a party of slavery.
He said, listen, I gotta give these niggas enough. Not too much, but enough that I'll have them voting Democrat for the next 200 years.
The race grievance industry would have you believe that blacks get up and think about nothing else except race.
If I tell you this is racist.
Or go to salemnow.com.
Morning, glory, America. Bonjour, hi, Canada. Hugh Hewitt live inside the Beltway on this Veterans Day 2021, where the headlines are all about Elon Musk selling $5 billion of stock and homes selling in a week, and the inflation numbers yesterday were awful, 6.2%. But I spend Veterans Day, I keep my eye on the breaking news in case something big happens, but I spend my Veterans Day like I have for 17 years on this show, celebrating the Semper Fi Fund and America's Fund, both of which can be found at thefund.org. Since 2003, when a group of Marine Corps wives got together and began the Semper Fi Fund, they have raised and spent $256 million helping wounded warriors from all the branches of the service as they return to the United States, in ways large and small, and in ways that would astonish you, with a variety of programs as diverse as are the wounded veterans who need an assist that isn't covered by the VA or by their veterans benefits or by their service assistance. We have great help for wounded warriors in America, but not all the gaps are filled. The Semper Fi Fund and the Fund step into that gap. You can find out all about them at thefund.org. I think the best testimony is to talk to people who've been helped by them, including Sergeant Gabe Martinez. I'm joined now by Sergeant Gabe Martinez, United States Marine Corps. Sergeant Martinez, welcome to the Hugh Hewitt Show. Good Veterans Day to you. Where do we find you this morning?
I am in Colorado, Denver, Colorado.
Oh, in Denver. So are you a native to the Centennial State?
Oh, yeah. Born and raised in Colorado. Only time I spent away from home was my time in the Marine Corps. So
did you watch that?
Came back.
Did you watch that Broncos game against the Browns a couple of Thursday nights back when the Browns beat the Broncos? Did you see that?
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, I do. I want to talk about that a lot because they managed to bring up the fumble in the drive. You're too young for that. But, Sergeant, when were you wounded?
Oh, the drive.
Stop.
I was wounded in 2010, Thanksgiving Day 2010. So we're coming up on however many years. Marines aren't good at math.
Yeah, that's 11 of them. What were the nature of your injuries, and how's the recovery going, Sergeant?
So I'm a bilateral leg amputee. Lost one leg above the knee, one below. And like I said, 11 years has gone by quick, but I'm well beyond the road to recovery. We got 3 kids now. I work full time. Really things are going well, and I keep as positive attitude as I can. And Semper Fi America's Fund is literally there every day, every month, every year that I've been through this. So,
how have they helped you? It's a proposition that people have to have explained if you've lost a couple of legs. And what can Semper Fi Fund do for you? How do their contributions help out wounded warriors, which is what people want to do?
Right. Yeah, short of giving my legs back, which I'm sure they would, they've literally helped in every aspect, whether it's financially, mentally, spiritually, and they really focus on mind, body, spirit for the veterans, and they got the experience, and they kind of have it down to their expertise with helping each veteran, and so for me they've literally helped. Like I said, it's been 11 years, so the list is seemingly endless. But they focused on me, especially in the first few years of my recovery, and really also started to focus on my family, which is fantastic. Bringing bringing that bond and strengthening the support system that of all these veterans would have, or some of the veterans that don't have that support system that end up getting that support system by Semper Fi and America's Fund.
Tell us about Team Semper Fi, Sergeant, because almost every Semper Fi and America's Fund veteran has got a connection to Team Semper Fi. How did you connect up to it? What did it do for you?
Yeah, so Team Semper Fi was my introductory of kind of recovery through sports. And so I kind of turned into the yes man after I was wounded, and I said yes to any and every opportunity I could to try out these adaptive sports, whether it's wheelchair basketball, skiing, hand cycling. And probably within the first just even couple years of being wounded, I did, I want to say 7 or 8 marathons on the hand cycle.
Wow.
Semper Fi Fund, they don't just throw you in. You know, there was a whole training working up to it, purchasing of the equipment needed for these competitions. And it really, it's excellent because it brings all these guys together that have, you know, a similar situation or like-mindedness. And we're able to recover together, and we all have that competitive drive, and we all have that athleticism just coming from the military, and it translates onto the field and recovery.
In the adaptive cycling, Sergeant, I'm curious, as a athlete who became a different kind of athlete, how long does it take to get good at that?
I would say, I mean, the biggest kind of shock is using your arms instead of legs, obviously, with the hand cycles. And I eased into it, I'd say, over the course of maybe a consistent couple months up to doing a marathon. But we were in California most of the time during that, and so being at sea level and not having many hills, it was a little bit more challenging. But yeah, I guess it varies obviously, but it definitely is interesting using so much upper body strength to move that bike.
That's what I watch the cyclists like that, and I think to myself, their arms have got to be like twice what they were when they were running. So, Sergeant, I always like to ask people about red tape. Do you run into it with Semper Fi Fund? How does it work for you? What's the audience need to know?
Red tape?
Yeah.
Really, I mean, there's not going to be red tape. If it's a legit, genuine need that they know that a veteran has, they're going to find a way to meet that. They're not a nonprofit that's going to be taken advantage of, or become a sort of a paycheck. They really are there, and they have their protocols in place to really genuinely help the veterans in any way they possibly can. And that's the beauty of having the case managers, having that special relationship with each of their veterans, is they know what's going on in their lives. My case manager, she's an active part of our lives. And so she just as any family member, she knows what's going on in our lives. And when we have a genuine need, even if we're not reaching out, she has an idea of it, and she's able to reach out, kind of be proactive and see what they can do to help. But yeah, as far as red tape, there really isn't red tape if it's genuine. And
Sergeant, that cannot be improved upon. That's the best answer I've had in 17 years about how it works, because people don't want to give to support overhead. They have very low overhead. They don't want to give to ineffective. They're very effective. And they don't want to give to fly-by-nights. They've been there for as long as you've been wounded, right? They've been there for a few years before you were hurt in 2010.
Yep. Yeah, 2007, I think they've been around. And like I said, they've got it down. They're experts at taking care of the service members that come back wounded or injured or ill.
Well, I appreciate your taking the time, Sergeant. You have a great Veterans Day today and a great cycle whenever it comes up. Thank you for joining me on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Hewitt.
They are legion, the number of veterans who've been helped by America's Fund and Semper Fi Fund, collected at thefund.org. You can call them and leave them a message at 760-725-3680. Also want to give you the snail mail address right now. Just make the check out if you're old school to the Fund or Semper Fi Fund or America's Fund, and send it to 825 College Boulevard, Suite 102, then put in a line PMB 609. Capital P as in Peter, capital M as in Mary, capital B as in Baker, PMB 609, Oceanside, California, hard on the corner of Camp Pendleton there, 92057, and they'll put it to work, helping people like the sergeant and the other veterans you're hearing here today. Let me remind you that there's a headline in the Wall Street Journal today this morning that reminds me of my sponsor, AndrewandTodd.com, and they are a great sponsor of the show with Sierra Pacific Mortgage, 888-888-1172. Homes typically sell in a week, forcing buyers to take risks, it says this morning. Posted at 7 a.m. this morning. And I'll tell you what that means. That means that if you're not pre-qualified, you're not going to get the house of your dreams. And whether you're a veteran, a wounded warrior, or anybody out there, you need to get a loan. They do veterans loans very, very happily at AndrewandTodd.com. If you're a veteran today, listen to the annual Veterans Day show. Then remember that veterans can help AndrewandTodd.com or be helped by AndrewandTodd.com. No money down. You know your benefits. You ought to be able to. And you can have one at a time. Even if you had one in the past and it's gone now or you want to refinance, you can do that. Call Andrew and Todd at 888-888-1172 or go to their website, AndrewandTodd.com. With the average time on the market 1 week, you don't have a lot of time. And then come back for more of my annual Semper Fi Fund and America's Fund show. I remind you, the exceptionally low overhead of 7% is why I'm so attached to the fund.org. They take the money that you give and they get it to wounded warriors, and they get it in ways large and small, immediately and long term. They will never not be there for those men and women who have been injured in the long wars. So please help them out at thefund.org. Come right back to the Hugh Hewitt Show.
How 1 million children were placed with local foster families. Parents from all walks of life share their stories of overcoming the one-child policy by taking in orphans.
Go to salemnow.com.
Trending now on the Larry Elder Show.
Well, first I would ask, what city is Ron living in? Because when you look at Los Angeles and San Francisco, these are the states which offer the most, healthy financial incentives for homeless to relocate to our cities. I'm in Los Angeles. It's very robust. So just, anyone who's making under $16,000 a year can get food stamps in California, any city. And that value is about $240 a month. And then, additionally, there's SSI, SSDI. And so we're finding that homeless can get anywhere from, $900 to $1,400 a month. Now, in San Francisco, what they did was they had COVID supplemental income and employment. This was during the COVID pandemic. So if you were in San Francisco, you could get, in addition to all of that, anywhere between $600 and $2,400 a month. That ran out at the end of September. That was through COVID. But you really see that, the bare minimum for many of these homeless who go through, SSI, SSDI, the, disability insurance can be anywhere from $900 to $1,400 a month, and that can get a little bit more. But what you see here, too, is that, maybe Ron doesn't want to take that. Maybe he doesn't want to go the route of a disability. And, maybe he has reasons for not wanting to take government welfare. But it sounds like what Ron is really, incentivized to be here is because California offers the best and most comprehensive free health care to both the homeless and to illegal immigrants. And that's a real driver. Whether or not you're collecting, disability insurance, what a lot of people come here for is the lucrative health care.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on the Mike Gallagher Show.
History-making tax and spend disaster. I mean, there's no other way to describe it. And this is why people were so angry at the Republicans in the Senate and the House who have supported Biden's scheme. Did you hear Trump was given a speech Monday night? The Republican Congressional Committee had a dinner, and he blasted the 13 Republicans in the House. I think Nicole Maliotakis was in the room. She had to be squirming. Because I'm sure President Trump held back, as he does. I'm sure he was very genteel and, very discreet.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
The most powerful organs of the state are not merely corrupt, but that they've been weaponized to go after perceived domestic enemies. And that's very scary.
Our constitutional democracy enshrines the peaceful transfer of power.
We are now all rooting for his success. The peaceful transition of power is one of the hallmarks of our democracy.
We don't live in the United States of America as any of us would like to understand it.
We have a peaceful transition of power process. That's not what happened.
They interviewed General Flynn, and they did it in what was a complete ambush.
I thought it's early enough. Let's just send a couple guys over.
And the audience was, ha, 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 ha. How funny to set up an innocent man.
This is what third world security states do. They spy on their political opponents like this.
This is part of a concerted Russian influence operation.
Russian interference.
They colluded. They were in on it.
He would come.
Welcome back, America. On this Veterans Day, I'm live inside the Beltway. I'm Hugh Hewitt. Thank you for joining me this morning. If you're new to the program, one of my new affiliates, for 17 years on Veterans Day, I've saluted the men and women who've served in uniform by helping raise awareness of and money for the Semper Fi Fund and America's Fund, which since 2003 have been assisting the men and women wounded in the long wars in both Iraq and Afghanistan and in any other training or combat readiness activity there. An amazing group of people. They've raised $256 million since their inception. Right now they have a dollar-for-dollar match through the end of the year from the Bob and Renee Parsons Foundation. Your donation will be double if you head to thefund.org this morning, or you can simply call as well, 760-725-3680. Let's talk next with Staff Sergeant Sean Dean. Joined now on our annual thefund.org show by Sergeant Sean Duke, Staff Sergeant Sean Duke of the United States Marine Corps. Good morning, Staff Sergeant Duke. Welcome to the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Good morning, sir. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you for joining us. Where do we find you this Veterans Day?
I'm still in Jacksonville, North Carolina.
Okay, a lot of North Carolinians today. Sergeant, when were you wounded and how has the fund helped you?
I was wounded in April of 2011. The Semper Fi Fund has done a lot for me, between moral support, financial support, helping me get my business up and running, and just guidance on.
What's the business, Sergeant?
It's a welding business. It's Duke's Welding Trailers.
And how did you get into that after you're wounded?
Well, I like doing stuff with my hands, and I've got a pretty creative imagination, and is trying to help people that don't know how to do something, or they just need a little helping hand.
That would be me and about everyone who's listening. So they got to find Duke's Welding. Which city is it in, Sergeant?
It's in Jacksonville.
All right.
It's in Jacksonville.
Now tell me, what are the nature of your injuries, and how did the Semper Fi Fund help you from the hospital to the welding room?
Well, the nature of the injuries is mainly TBI. We got caught in an ambush in Afghanistan in 2011. From there, it was more or less moral support. They kept telling me, like, keep working and just stay focused.
How's the business doing? I mean, starting a business when you're recovering from serious wounds is difficult, but how's a welding business doing?
It's going good. It's going good. It's a trade that everybody needs, we'll help with here and there, and there's enough trailers around here to keep me more than busy.
That is terrific. Now, last question, Staff Sergeant Duke.
Yes, sir.
I try and reassure everybody that the Semper Fi Fund and the fund have no red tape, that it's really soldier, sailor, airman, Marine directly to caseworker. Has that been your experience?
Yes, sir. 100%. Yes.
Have they switched around, or do you stick with one or two of them over the course of your recovery?
No, sir. I've been with the first person that I was with was I'm still with her, and then when I went to start my business, I got another Semper Fi rep.
And they're still there?
Yes, sir. I can call them anytime.
That is terrific. Sergeant, thank you for joining me this morning. Good luck with welding today and every day, and have a great Veterans Day.
Thank you. You do the same, sir.
Thank you. So many of our wounded veterans have gone on to do great businesses and are involved in so much activity in their community thanks to the Semper Fi Fund. I hope you will go to thefund.org, America's Fund as well. They serve all branches of the military. As I said, 7% overhead, the highest ratings from all the charity monitors, former commandants, 4-star generals, spouses of them as well on their board. They run a lean, mean ship because they want to make sure that your dollars donated actually get to the service members who've been wounded. A lot of good groups out there. I think the best is the Semper Fi Fund and America's Fund. That's why I do it every year. If you're helping veterans, you can do it with them. Please call them at 760-725-3680, 760-725-3680, or visit thefund.org, thefund.org. Come right back. I've got two more veterans to talk to before we wrap up today's 2021 edition of the Hugh Hewitt Show, Veterans Day.
Curious about what you're missing in the universe? The After Show? 21 years of Hugh Hewitt shows on demand? Go to www.huniverse.com right now, where it's only 99 cents to join for the first month. www.huniverse.com.
Streaming on Salem Now.
The public would be outraged if they knew the truth.
Why do you think our politicians are not on the sidewalk right now talking to you?
Don't have no respect.
The old wall randomly turns into a guardrail, followed by miles of open border.
Human trafficking gone.
That journey is extremely dangerous.
The 7-year-old girl died in the desert.
From the country of India.
A great pillar of the community was killed by a man who had been deported at least twice.
This little urn contains the ashes of my son. His dreams cut short forever.
We're so worried about other countries' problems, and we don't even focus on our own.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
We'll see one young lady identify as transgender, and the next thing you know, 6 or 7 young ladies in that same school are now identifying as transgender.
Children taught at age 5 they can create their gender identity, and it's being celebrated.
Schools are lining up to push the transgender agenda on kids and cut parents out of the equation.
Every cell of their body that has a nucleus is male or female.
We've now seen parents losing custody of their children if they don't go along with this.
We've all been created XY or XX, so that means there's only 2 genders. And so really the battle is against the Creator.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Trending now on the Mike Gallagher Show.
About the way the Biden administration is blaming everybody and anybody but themselves for the mess that this country is in right now. Look at if you're worried about the shortage of goods and due to the supply chain crisis, you're right to be worried. But Biden and his team are blaming us. And it's not just the Biden administration, it's the anti-capitalist media beast. Have you seen lately some of the articles about how we buy too much? We're just buying too much stuff. Recent opinion pieces in outlets like the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Atlantic, Time Magazine, and Business Insider argue that the supply chain broke because we Americans want too much. The desire for goods itself is just fundamentally wrong. And these articles claiming we buy too much stuff have proliferated as a way to direct the narrative away from the administration's incompetence. It also reflects a growing contempt for the consumer economy, a contempt that feeds off the near-religious belief that capitalism is destroying the planet and is part of the over-the-top hysteria over global warming. This is an ideology. The ideology says, as Jonathan Tobin writes, it's an ideology that believes that we deserve to suffer because of our supposed excesses.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
End of story. That's the reason nations create capital punishment. He got out, which is just so understanding and empathetic of us. He threatened people all day, and then he used force and threatened Kyle Rittenhouse, who was there to help people when he wasn't a community pool lifeguard. And that man shot to death the child rapist. Rot in hell. The second man, oh yes, with a rap sheet for what? Assaulting women. He got killed as well after he swung at Kyle Rittenhouse with a skateboard to his head. Not a lot of tears will be shed for that man, I'm sure, in any community of decent Americans. And then the third guy who approached him with a Glock pointed to Kyle's head, who then had his bicep blown off by that brave young man. Come on, guys. Acquit, or better yet, mistrial.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at rumble.com.
Welcome back, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt. It is the Veterans Day show, which I've been doing for 17 years to support thefund.org. That is a combination of the Semper Fi Fund, founded in 2003, America's Fund, founded not long thereafter, to assist wounded warriors and their families when they returned. Semper Fi and America's Fund have long been providing immediate financial assistance and lifetime support to the combat wounded veteran out there. Among them, I am so pleased to welcome Sergeant Ken Kalish to the program. I'm joined now by Sergeant Ken Kalish, United States Marine Corps. Good morning, Sergeant. Where do we find you today?
In Boston, Massachusetts.
Oh my gosh, we very rarely get people from the Bay State. Are you a native to Massachusetts?
No, I am not.
How did you end up there? Who wants to go to Massachusetts? I mean, that's the Patriots.
Oh, that's all right. Hey, that's a perfect name, Patriots.
So, Sergeant, when were you wounded, and how did the Semper Fi Fund help you?
I was wounded April 7th of 2011. I stepped on an IED and lost both legs and an arm. Honestly, the biggest thing that the Semper Fi Fund did for me whenever I first got hurt was a simple thing of a van. They gave our family a accessible van to use while I was in my recovery process, just to be able to get out of the hospital setting.
And Sergeant, how did that happen? I mean, how did you find Semper Fi Fund? How did they know? Of course, you're double amputee. You're going to need a special, triple amputee. You're going to need a special vehicle. How did they find out all this stuff and connect with you?
They actually connected with my parents whenever I got transferred to San Antonio to Brooke Army Medical Center, they actually came and contacted us.
Oh, wow. And did you know they existed before you were wounded?
I had no idea that the organization was around at all.
So, Sergeant, that's less than a decade ago. I've been doing the show for 17 years. I'm always amazed by the number of Marines who don't know that the Semper Fi Fund is out there, the number of soldiers that don't know that the Army Fund is out there. Why is that? Do you never comes up until someone is badly hurt?
I think that's a big thing. Is just you never hear about them because they're one of the few organizations that they don't sit there and plaster their name all over the TV with commercials and everything like that. It's kind of word of mouth, but word of mouth actually spreads pretty quick around whenever the guys get hurt, and just because of how reliable they are.
Let's pause on that, Sergeant, because no one else brought that up. By reliable, what do you mean?
Well, when I got out of the Marine Corps, I was in a transition where for like 3 months, I wasn't getting my retirement pay after I had gotten out. So I had my last paycheck, and then there was about 3 months where I wasn't having any funds coming in.
Oh, my.
And I talked to my case manager, and it was like I didn't even ask. She was instantly like, we're here to help you. We know this transition process can be tough, and they've just always been there.
That is reliable. And in terms of caseworkers, have you had 1, 3, 5 in your time?
I've had 2. My first caseworker retired, and then now I have a new caseworker.
And I always ask, red tape, is it a problem?
No, not at all. I mean, I could call my caseworker as soon as we were done with this call, and if it's something that they're able to help with, there would be no questions asked. It would be, let's get it done right now.
So, Sergeant Kalish, last question is there a big veterans community in Massachusetts?
Honestly, I'm starting to find that there really is a big veterans community. It's not so much of a younger community like my generation, but really kind of Gulf War, Vietnam. There really is a pretty decent-sized veterans community up here.
Well, greetings to all of them, and especially to you on Veterans Day. Thank you for helping us tell the story of thefund.org, and I wish you a great day today, Sergeant. Thank you.
Thank you. You have a wonderful day.
I also want to go over now and talk with Sergeant Julian Torres, who's my last wounded warrior of today's Veterans Show on 2021 edition of this, which we do every year. And by the way, if you want to call the fund, 760-725-3680. That's 760-725-3680. They take Veterans Day off, not surprisingly, so leave a message. Or just go online to thefund.org. I'll give you the snail mail in just a moment. This is Sergeant Julian Torres of the United States Marine Corps. He's retired. Sergeant, I gather I'm talking to a competitor. You're a podcaster.
Yeah, I'm not a competitor, sir, but yes, I am a podcaster.
What's the name of the podcast? I love podcasts. I always check them out.
It's called Coffee with Julian.
Coffee with Julian.
Is the coffee, yeah.
Well, talk to us, Sergeant, about when you were wounded and the nature of your wounds.
I was wounded in July 2010. I'm a right below the knee amputee. I'm sorry, I'm a right above the knee amputee and a left below the knee amputee.
And so you lost your legs. Where was that? Afghanistan?
That was Afghanistan. I was 2nd Battalion, 6th Marines in Marj, Afghanistan.
So when you woke up, wherever you woke up, how did you find the Semper Fi Fund in your journey of recovery?
So the first time I met, if I could just paint a picture for you real quick, I was in and out of surgeries. My wife was there with my newborn son. My father and my mother were there. And these beautiful ladies walked in with gift baskets full of baby formula, full of diapers, full of wipes, full of all the necessities to take care of a young child. And they were like, "Hey, we just want to introduce ourselves. This is the Semper Fi Fund, and we know that you could have forgotten a few things at home. You're probably running out of things now. Here you go. If you ever need us, we're just a phone call away."
Now, that baby's probably 11 years old now, Sergeant. How is he or she doing?
My son's great. You know, he's 11 years old. He's a Boy Scout. He's my best friend. Yeah, I mean, he's my right-hand guy.
Oh, that's very inspiring. So, Sergeant, after that first visit, how has the relationship been with the Semper Fi Fund over the decade?
Semper Fi Fund's been there for many milestones in my life. They were there when my daughter was born. They were there when we moved into our home. They were there when I first got medically cleared to drive my vehicle. After I was off of all my meds and you know, able to drive with hand controls, I had to test out again and with the DMV and stuff, and they were there, man. You know, they were there when my house caught on fire. You know what I mean? So, long story short, you know, I don't know if I would be as a successful veteran if Semper Fi Fund wasn't there. You know what I mean? They were able to just take off some of these stresses that you don't necessarily need to deal with when you're dealing with how do I live my life while missing half my body.
You know, Sergeant, one of the things you'll learn podcasting Coffee with Julian is when you hear a story, stop and ask, your house caught on fire and you're a double amputee. What happened? Were you in it?
I was in it. The night before, this is July 3rd, my really good friend from the Marine Corps came over. We had a little mini bonfire. Just, you know, a little fire you have in the driveway, you know what I mean?
Sure.
We were roasting marshmallows and hot dogs. And on the 4th, we ended up trying to take off this. We were throwing the ash away inside of a trash can. Well, long story short, although we had filled it up with water, although we had mixed it and filled it with the water twice, there was still 1 or 2 hot ambers left. Oops. I didn't know. And caught the trash can on fire. That was right next to my barbecue grill. Caught the propane tank on fire. And then that was hitting the siding of the house.
What time of day was that, Sergeant?
So this was in the middle of the afternoon.
Oh, am I glad. Nighttime, that could have been really a nightmare. So.
Oh, yeah. And I was able to jump a fence, turn around the house, and put the fire out myself before the firefighters even got there. So
jump a fence. So your prosthetics were on when this happened?
One of them was on, and I had to go back into the bathroom real quick, snap the other one on, and handle business.
That is congratulations. That's a story. That's a great story. Sergeant, you know, I might make that into. I'm going to listen to Coffee with Julian. I hope you tell the whole story, but also a good admonition to all of our friends celebrating Veterans Day. If you're using fireworks or doing a hot dog roast, put the fire out. Sergeant, thank you for joining me. I appreciate your candor and you're telling us about your journey, and I hope you have a great Veterans Day.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for everything you're doing for us.
Oh, it's my honor. Thank you, Sergeant. It is my honor. I've been doing this for a long time. I'm always amazed and humbled by the people that we talk to. And Sergeant Torres jumping the fence after he snapped on his second prosthetic in order to put out the fire, that's a first in 2021. Hadn't heard that one before. But there's always a new story. These men and women are so inspiring. If you've been listening today, you say, one, I have no problems, right? You have no problems unless you are as ill or in the middle of a recovery as difficult and prolonged as some of these wounded warriors have gone through. And you also have an obligation as an American to support veterans, to salute them, to thank them for their service, and I think to contribute. They've given so much of themselves, their families have given so much of themselves for you and for me, that I'm honored to help, and I hope you help as well. Go over to thefund.org. Let me give that snail mail address I promised. It's a long one. You just make your check out to the Fund or Semper Fi Fund or America's Fund. Put it in an envelope and send it to 825 College Boulevard. 825 College Boulevard, Suite 102, PMB 609, Peter Mary Baker 609, Oceanside, California 92057. Because some people still only send checks, and that's great. They love getting them in the mail. I get a report a few weeks after we talk about this. Last year, a foundation to which we are very grateful sent $100,000. Thank you. We hope all of you will also remember that if you are a federal employee, they have a combined federal campaign number, which is 11459. So your weekly or monthly donation, if you're participating in the combined federal campaign, can be for the fund. Their number is 1149. Ask your employer if they will match any donation that you make today. You can also hold a one-time fundraising event for them, participate. Just get in touch with them. Team Semper Fi and America's Fund sports programs are great things. They have an art and music program. They got the Jinx McCain horsemanship program. They've got Tim and Sandy Day canine companion program. They do all sorts of counseling. They do all sorts of apprenticeship work. They do everything for our service people, like the service people have done everything for us. So please head over to thefund.org or give them a call at 760-725-3680. I'll come back with a final conversation with a couple of the ladies who help run Semper Fi Fund. Wendy Lathine's been with them from the beginning in 2003. I especially like talking to her every year. But don't go anywhere. Remember, however, relieffactor.com. If you're going out to a Veterans Day celebration day like I am, take it before you go. Make sure that you're getting rid of those aches and pains that will bother your exercise, your activity throughout the day. It's nothing like these wounded warriors have gone through. To have a bad shoulder or a bad elbow or a bad knee or a bad ankle or a bad anything. But it's no fun anyway. And therefore, get rid of that by using nature's anti-inflammatories, all four of them, Icarian and curcumin, resveratrol, and omega, are collected in one packet that is very easy to open, very easy to swallow. ReliefFactor.com. $19.95 gets you a 3-week starter pack. I took it in the first hour, and mind you, in hours 2 and 3 every single day. You get tired of it, but I also serve as a reminder for you who are listening. Average time spent listening to this show is about a half an hour. People doing their drive, and they forget before they go out, and I'm glad that you do it. Also, download the Salem News Channel if you want to watch the program. Love to have you watch as well as listen. The Salem News Channel app is out there and now up and running 24/7. And come right back for today's final segment of the Veterans Day edition of the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Schools are lining up to push the transgender agenda on kids and cut parents out of the equation.
Go to salemnow.com.
Trending now on the Charlie Kirk Show.
I'm in charge. I'm the mob boss. Play cut 2.
Are you at all thinking about some relief on any of your mandates?
Listen, there's mandate fatigue everywhere, including with yours truly, so let there be no doubt about that. At the moment, no.
This guy is a scumbag. He is awful. Contrast that with Governor DeSantis, America's greatest governor, most courageous, and just announced his re-election campaign to become governor of Florida again. A well-deserved campaign of a man who has been overly courageous with now the lowest COVID rates in the country. Can you get if it's COVID rate, death rates, or virus rates? It's whatever it is. It's the lowest in the country.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
And that is, can you name an intelligent conservative? That's a riddle for them.
Well, they would scratch their head. Because then they're torn. If they say yes, then they've undercut their entire argument about the conservative movement. If they say no, then they know that intellectually, here it goes back to bite them, intellectually they can't say no because they do know that there are conservatives out there that they may disagree with and they try to downplay, but are intelligent. Remember, there was an old saying, I don't know if you remember the show The West Wing.
Yeah.
There was a discussion, a very interesting show. It was very liberal, but there was times of conservative balance. At least they would at least attempt it. And there was a conversation one time between I think one of the characters, a Rob Lowe character, and then the Ansley Hayes character in the thing. And so they were talking about, how could you be against this? The intellectual, you graduated from, good schools. How could this happen? And the Ansley Hayes character made this comment. She said, "You seem to forget it was basically the Harvard Club of the Harvard Washington Club that got us into Vietnam." And just making those kind of comments that bring it up, the fact that just because of establishment elitism, you believe your thoughts are right doesn't mean that there's not another side. And that's the thing that the liberals can't assess to. I saw it firsthand with Jerry Nadler, with Eric Swalwell, with Steve Cohen, Mr. Chicken Bucket himself, which I talk about in the book, and Jamie Raskin and these others who believe themselves intellectually superior. And because they believe their ideas are what is right, when in actuality, they're disconnected from mainstream.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
Streaming on
I'm Hugh Hewitt. I hope you're having a great Veterans Day, a start to a great Veterans Day, whether you're working or taking the day off. I hope you honor the veterans in your life and their families, and you remember the widows of those who've fallen in combat. You do everything right, including contributing to the Semper Fi Fund at thefund.org. I want to go back to Wendy Lathine and Sue Baker, who began the show 3 hours ago, for our final talk about thefund.org. Joined again by Wendy Lathine, Senior Vice President of thefund.org, and by Sue Baker, who's a caseworker with thefund.org. You've listened to all these veterans, Wendy. I always pick a great one for the last one, and that's just something. A double amputee who's putting out the fire at his house, Sergeant Gonzalez. I just find them all inspiring, though.
They are so inspiring, and I'm so thank you for giving us this time, for sharing these stories with your listeners from all across America, so that they can hear from on this Veterans Day, to hear the stories of veterans that have served and sacrificed, their triumphs over trauma, and how the Semper Fi Fund and America's Fund wraps our arms around them.
I love that they come from everywhere. So we've got Boston, Massachusetts this morning. We've got Cleveland, Ohio. We've got Nebraska. We've got California, Texas, Florida, North Carolina. The Semper Fi Fund, the America's Fund, all of it at www.thefund.org. It's everywhere.
Yes. Yes, it is. We are, we try to cover all areas, remote and in the cities, and we pride ourselves in the feeling of we're like a family, and they become a part of our families, and we're here for a lifetime. So they may have started out in the hospital, and we're still with them as they're recovering and continue to recover along their journey.
Sergeant Martinez, 11 years, his baby was taken care of by the Semper Fi Fund in the hospital. He's 11 years old now, his best friend. Sue Baker, how many different Marines have you worked with over a decade? I mean, military members. It can be Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps. The fund helps them all. How many different cases have you helped manage?
Yeah, so I have helped in the hundreds, hundreds of cases.
Wow. Wendy Lathine, you have a great team. I just want to close there. I just thank you and everyone who started this, Karen Gunther, all the guys and the gals who were there from the beginning, your board of directors that serves, caseworkers like Sue and scores of others, and especially the veterans who help us every year tell the story.
Oh, we do have a great team, and we also have a great team and those that support us. You know, the way we support our wounded service members and the families, of today will really make an impact on our future generations. We hope that your listeners will join us and be part of this amazing family.
Large donations, small donations. I'll give the number and the address out again. But, Wendy, they're all welcome. And I hope that once people start contributing to you, they keep. Do you keep that statistic around? Because my guess is you have repeat donors who just love the work and are impressed with the efficiency.
And Hugh, it's so funny because just this week we were talking to one of our supporters who said that they learned about us from your show, and they have been giving for, it was well over 10 years. So,
well, I hope we add to his or her number. We'll never be Bob Parsons, but we can make up in volume what Bob and Renee Parsons Foundation does, and I salute them, by the way. That is a great thing, having a match like that. Be well to you both. Have a great Veterans Day. The office isn't open today. It'll be open tomorrow, but the phone number works, and I'll give that all out again. Wendy and Sue, thank you so much for setting this up. Every year you come through, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. It's truly an honor to be on.
It's really amazing what they do for us every year, finding these amazing men and women who are willing to talk to us. Their phone number, 760-725-3680. 760-725-3680. One more time, 760-725-3680. The easiest thing is simply to visit thefund.org and make a contribution online. But I hope you continue year in and year out that you do it. And 10 years from now, for as long as I'm in the saddle and radio, I'll be doing this. Because it's a great, great effort. Salem supports me in doing this. I'm glad, I'm keeping my eye on the news. In fact, I want you to go over to the WashingtonPost.com just to watch the video of the Tomb of the Unknowns receiving its first soldier a century ago. On this day, 100 years ago, the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier at Arlington received its first remains from either a doughboy or a devil dog in World War I, 3 years after the conclusion of the war. But also, here's the snail mail address for thefund.org. Make your check out to the Semper Fi Fund, America's Fund, or just the Fund, and send it to 825 College Boulevard. 825 College Boulevard, Suite 102, PMB 609. Peter Mary Baker 609, PMB 609, Oceanside, California 92057. Remember, 7% overhead since its inception. Very, very low. There is a match on right now from the Bob and Renee Parsons Foundation up to $10 million. So if you want to write a $10 million check, Elon Musk, if you're listening, you sold all that stock yesterday, by all means, match it out. But if it's $10, $100, whatever you give, thank you for being generous to those men and women who have done so much for us, who have been wounded, who are recovering with the assistance of thefund.org. Thank you, Adam and Dwayne. Thank you, Ben. Thank all of you for your generosity, for listening. Remember, thank veterans today for their service to us. And if you can, attend one of the ceremonies like that at Rocky Versailles Memorial later today in Alexandria, Virginia. I will be back tomorrow, America, inside the Beltway. All the news you need, the analysis you must have on the next Hugh Hewitt Show.